Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the NXTCC, or the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship Season 4, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC, known as iRacing, and sponsored by Higgins Automotive. This is the series that sees our drivers compete over 10 rounds of racing action, 3 races in each round, all in the art of trying to become the king or the queen of the touring car racing cars machine. It's front engine, front wheel drive racing like you've never seen it before. And as our drivers charge away into the 4th round of the season today, we are here in Japan and the foothills of Mount Fuji for the Fuji International Speedway. A circuit that is steeped in history, particularly within Super GT, but you also have to look to the fact it was the location of the first live televised Formula 1 Grand Prix in the year of 1976, which saw James Hunt take the championship in the end by a single point over Niki Lauda, and then commemorated in the film Rush. Well, it's a circuit which will see our drivers rush their way down the extended start-finish straight, one of the longest straights in the world when it comes to road racing circuits, extending at 0.917 miles. And as our drivers make the way down there, it's going to be the battle of the slipstream all the way out to the first corner. However, to talk just about the straight would be unfair with regards to this Japanese circuit, as there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, and in particular the fact that this circuit has 16 corners, which see the average apex speed gradually wind down from the start lap to the very end, and it's a highly technical circuit at that. So when it's all put together, it means there's something for everybody here, and whether your car's set up for straight line speed or cornering or somewhere in between, you're going to have areas where you're going to be strong and areas where you're going to be weak, and that's going to lead to some absolutely thrilling racing as our drivers look to go into the mid-season break on a high. But as we get ready to go racing today, we welcome you all to this broadcast being brought to live to you from Circuit Side, and indeed free media platforms available for this broadcast today. Firstly, the two official NXTGEN broadcasts, which are available on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing, you could be tuning in there, and welcome to you on YouTube. Alternatively, Facebook. If you go to facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing, you could be tuning there, and welcome to you on Facebook. And lastly, the unofficial broadcast, which is being brought to you on Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you on Twitch. Now, who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain and Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now, we bring you all your racing action over the course of this season, including today. And speaking of today, let's take you through that schedule for today. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1 at UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under 18 minutes time, we go into another qualifying session, 15 minutes in duration, all of our drivers out of the circuit. And well, given the fact we are going to have a grand total of what is 34 drivers out of the circuit altogether, it's going to be packed out there, and well, it's going to be an absolute thriller as a result, given the fact that all of our drivers will be looking to go for gold from start to finish. And well, who's going to be on pole come the end of that qualifying session? That's going to be the big question that's going to be on everybody's lips. And straight after that, we make our way into our first race of the day, one of 3 11-lap races, and that'll be sprint race number 1 at 8:15, after which we'll take a brief breather before returning at approximately what will be 9 o'clock this evening for the grid for race number 2, and then we'll take another breather, albeit not without the reverse grid draw, before we make our way for our final race of the day, race number 3, to wrap up our time here in Japan, and indeed our first visit to Japan for this season, and that will be at 10:45 when we have our final race getting underway. With its pleasant conditions at the circuit right now, albeit a little bit of cloud over the circuit, but an ambient temperature of 24 degrees centigrade and a track temperature of just over 40 degrees centigrade, when it's relatively hot, and that is going to make this a very challenging day for all the drivers as far as they're concerned. But still, we talked a little bit about visits to Japan, and let's give you a recap of the championship calendar thus far and what we still got lying in wait. So today is the 29th of August 2023, and we started off 3 weeks ago at the Monza circuit on the 8th of August, and we got things off there with an absolutely thrilling start in Italy. Battles are plenty on the start-finish straight, and indeed around the extended straightaways of the Italian circuit. Also some major incidents over the course of each and every race, and a couple of safety cars saw deployment as well, but the key thing being that all of our drivers absolutely went all in to try and set themselves up for success in the season opener. Some were able to pull it off, others were not able to, and then making their way into the next round at Snetterton in the United Kingdom. Well, round number 2 saw things mixed up on the 15th of August, and we also got to see some history made with Matthew Addy adding his name to the limited list of prime drivers who took an overall win in the 3rd race of the day. But we also got to see drama at the start of the day in race number 1 with Bobby Thompson, who seemed absolutely certain to be taking the win in race number 1, falling foul right towards the end of the race and yielding the win to Dan Mould, and what a win it was for the SRL driver. But then round number 3, last time out, we made our way to the United States of America for the first time this season, and well, Road America was our destination, and my goodness did Road America deliver, and you had to be there to see it and enjoy it, for the simple fact that Road America had 3 races which are absolutely non-stop from lights out to checker flag, and on top of that we got to see some fantastic battling, and we also got to see a complete shuffle and mix up in the field with no one driver absolutely dominating at Road America, and well, that's exactly what we expected to see in the US of A, and today it is the Fuji circuit on the 29th of August. But after today we're going to be taking a mid-season break week, and the reason for that is due to the fact there's a new iRacing build due to be released in a week's time, and therefore we don't want to run foul or conflicting with that, particularly if the servers are down. But we will be returning on the 12th of September for round number 5 of the circuit Charles Villeneuve in Canada, and well, there the hybrid street circuit will be in play host to our drivers, and it'll be the first time we're going to be visiting the circuit in the NXTCC, and well, we'll introduce it a little bit more. I'll tell you one thing, it is going to be a very different circuit from what our drivers are used to. Plenty of chicanes and plenty of power and traction zones, so therefore it is going to be one where it's all about getting back on the throttle as soon as possible. And in round number 6, we'll make our way to the Netherlands for Circuit Zandvoort. That'll be on the 19th of September. and the highly twisty and technical circuit, which has definitely proven itself on the international calendars over the recent years, while drivers there will need to get with the fact they'll need to carry the speed from corner to corner and also get used to trail braking into late apex hairpins. But then we'll take our second mid-season break before we return on the 3rd of October to conclude the second half of the season, and we begin the run-in on what will be the circuit Zolder in Belgium, and that'll be round number 7, and then make our way over to Japan for the second time and final time this season for the lesser known but still not to be underestimated Twin Rim Motegi circuit on the 10th of October, and now the penultimate round of the season will make our way back to the US of A for the Willow Springs Raceway, and we're taking on the big Willow layout of the circuit, recently introduced the iRacing simulator, and well, that one is going to feel as though it's touring car meets NASCAR meets next gen, given how fast the circuit is over the course of a single lap, and we're looking forward to that on the 17th of October, and then we bring it all to a close with the battle to be king of the mountain or king of the hill, depending on your preference. It'll be down under in Australia, and none other than the Mount Panorama circuit, but we all know and love it, referred to it as Bathurst, and now we're on the 24th of October, we bring it all to a close, and what is definitely going to be a thrilling finale. But enough about the calendar for now, let's give you an update on those championships in terms of the drivers and the teams championships going into round number 4, and we start with a recap of the overall drivers championship, and as we can see, after 3 rounds of mixed fortunes for many last time out, Mikey Doble has returned to the top step, but only by 11 points over brother Joseph, and indeed the two of them from Doble Sim Racing definitely making sure to stay well inside that top 5. Meanwhile, a further 7 points behind with Andrew Pike and the Sim Racing Collective driver yet to break ground in terms of taking the championship lead, but a constant threat in 3rd place and really holding on to his position in the Hyundai Elantra, and behind him Gavan Garnett in P4, the Audi RS3 driver who's daring to dream the impossible to take the Audi to the very top, and right now definitely within arm's reach, and his consistency is proving critical. Then we do have a sizable gap of which 27 points to Bobby Thompson, the Hyundai Veloster driver who's definitely had mixed fortunes over the course of this season, and if fortunes have gone slightly differently, he could be your championship leader right now by a significant margin, but still he's not going to give up, and nor is Kieran Sharp in P6 with the 275 points equal to Bobby Thompson, but behind based on result count by it. It's then Jamie Dwayne, John Higgins Jr. complete P7 at P8, and the two of them only 5 points between them, and both in a close-knit fight, with defending champion Jamie Dory definitely having a difficult time last time out of Road America, and finding his fortunes not going his way, and looking to turn things around today from when I caught up with him in the paddock in the build-up to the races, with Dan Mole P9 and Isaac Doble P10, and Isaac Doble currently our highest placed pro-owned driver and inside the top 10 overall, and it will mean he's taking some success ballast into qualifying our first race of the day. Matthew Sheraton at P11 there, only what is a further 11 points behind, and really coming on strong is the pro-owned driver over the course of this season for Aztec Racing, and plenty to look forward to from him, with Stephen Daly a further 4 points behind, and then we have a sizable gap to Ian Manners of what is 17 points there, and he's got company in the form of Shane Pigger and Lee Horn. Matthew Addy's just outside the top 15 based on result count back, behind teammate Horn, with Alan McCain P17, and 7 points behind is Nick Clibbins, with Russell Fowler and Reece Watt completing your top 20. And outside the top 20, P21 is Josh Millington on 114 points, and the Pro Sim Racing Collective drive definitely having the bad luck so far in terms of how his races have gone. And just behind him, Pro driver Jack Southfield for the Sim Racing Collective, a further 14 points behind, and continuing to rise up through the ranks as time wears on. Luke Jones, Alex Meredith and Paul Scott complete your top 25. Munil Ferrier P26, and another driver who's definitely had difficult days thus far this season, albeit he did miss the opening round due to health issue, but thankfully he's back on the grid now and giving it everything he's got in the Honda Civic Type R. And Dan Holland, meanwhile, in P27, 178 points there. Definitely having difficulty in the first 2 rounds, but is starting to find his form and becoming a threat inside the top 10. As Mark Sykes, Bernardo Colbe and Ben Trio complete your top 30, with Lucas Colch P31 ahead of Daniel Fritz, then Ian Wood, Mark Kent and Wayne Douglas complete your top 35, with Dan Lewis a further 2 points behind in P36 ahead of Jonathan Collins, and it's Josh Brown, Michael East and also there James Affleck who complete the top 40. And outside the top 40, not to be forgotten about, we have Georgia Belay, Chris Rance, Jake Pitt, Jonathan Cook, James Mansesgow who's got 0 points, and Adam Delmont with minus 46 points due to a car change, and therefore he's having to try and recover the lost time. But now we come onto the prime class, the Higgins Automotive Championship for this season, and as we can see, Isaac Doble leading the way on 302 points, only 8 points clear of Matthew Cheverton, but the battle at the top could not be closer. Isaac Doble right now taking the lead back after the previous round, and Matthew Cheverton, the rising star, continuing to threaten from beneath. Lee Horn, meanwhile, in P3 on 283 points. He'll be hoping he can get back into the fight today after what was a fantastic round number 2, but last time out things didn't quite go his way at Road America, and the same could be said for Ian Manazer on 275 points, the second place Honda Civic Type R in the order, where he's ahead of Matthew Addy by a further 12 points, and Matthew Addy seeing a return to bad luck at Road America, but it's not going to hopefully be bad luck for too much longer. Russell Fowler in P at 6 down 257. He's our leading Audi RS3 within the prime class category with 3 points over for Reese Watt, and you have Alan McCain, Shane Piggott, and Nick Clemens completing your top 10. And P11 currently Paul Scott there on 206 points, who's been trying to break inside the top 10, but unfortunately results just not going his way thus far, and he's got to be wary of another driver who's had difficulty over the last couple of rounds, and that is Alex Meredith on 191 points, who has also a 5-point advantage over Mark Sykes. Ben Altrier and Luke Jones complete your top 15, with Ben Altrier, of course, being a fan favourite, and many of you supporters of Ben Altrier, and we're looking forward to seeing how he gets on today. Bernardo Colby P16 ahead of Lucas Kolch, with Michael Lees behind only a result countback, keeping in mind that Lees has changed car this season, and therefore is recovering from the points he lost, those 75 points he threw to the wayside. And then Daniel Fritz and Ian will complete your top 20. And outside the top 20, we have Mark Kent at P21 on 77 points, 3 clear of Jonathan Collins, and in return, Giorgio Belay a further 7 points behind, with Jonathan Cook for what is P24 ahead of Josh Brown. And then we have Dan Lewis just outside the top 25 based on result countback, with Chris Arndt, who made his debut last time out on 40 points already and making some early progress, and Jake Pitt and James Mansell complete your standings in the Higgins Automotive Championship. Now lastly, coming on to the Teams Championship, here we can see the Sim Racing Collective lead the way, but only by 10 points at the very top head of Doble Sim Racing. The two teams are battling back and forth for that top step right now, and they have made over a 100-point advantage to NXTGEN Racing Pink, who are in P3. As you can see there, NXTGEN Racing Pink are continuing to try and close down the gap to the top, but the problem they've got is they have found themselves in a bit of a no-man's land. For every point they gain, the top two seem to gain plenty more points by comparison, but also they've got a clear advantage over sister team Sam Casey with NXTGEN Racing on 338 points, who've only got a 2-point advantage over BT Motorsport. BT Motorsport have dropped to P5, their lowest position in the championship thus far this season, with difficulty at Road America, and they'll be where JW Motorsport are making great ground on them, only a further 15 points behind in P6, and it's iRacing Esports at the Team 4X by Casey Motorsport, with P7, P8, with SRL and Prawnce Link Esports completing your top 10. Outside the top 10, from 206 points, we go to 185 points, and it's Aztec Racing, and they'll be wary of the fact they've got Mark Sykes Designs, who are not too far away, but Mark Sykes Designs definitely having the brunt of bad luck last time out in terms of battling to try and get inside the top 10, and Aztec Racing could make the breakthrough today. Coming to Motorsport P13, 164 points, they're only 5 points off of their rivals in front, with Ace of Spades Racing in the form of just Shane Piggott, and doing a fantastic job there for the team. He's currently getting them close, and only what is a grand total of 17 points off of the P13 team, and it's full tilt of Motorsport. We round off your top 15. Whiskey Runners Racing with NXTGEN, Stone Cold Digital with HHR, and CSKC and Mally Motors completing your championship standings. But we come on to our circuit for today then, and it is a circuit which is much loved by many of our drivers, and I must admit, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very soft spot and a fond spot for the Fuji International Speedway. One drivers are going to be taking on the 2005 Grand Prix layout of the circuit, introduced in 2005 and located near the city of Oyama in the Sunto district of the Shizuoka Prefecture of Japan, and was we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com. Thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it. This circuit is most noted for its extended start-finish straight, 0.917 miles of straightway, and my goodness, we're going to be seeing our drivers go up to the maximum possible speeds here, and perhaps the high speeds of the season, but however, it's more than just one long straight, let's reassure you of that. For as our drivers make their way into the first braking zone, it's going to be hard on the anchors while the slides corners on the circuit as they head into turn number 1, and much like Super GT in the real world, you can expect 3-4 wide into the opening corner, particularly at the start of each and every race. But as they make their way out of the hairpin, they'll then come through the Kinker 2 and charge in towards Coca-Cola corner at turn number 3. A sweeping left-handers off camber and downhill, and as they make their way through the left-hander, they then set themselves up for 100R, the double right-hand complex to turns 4 and 5, where it's all about that late apex at turn number 5 to charge up towards turn 6 at the hairpin. There's a downhill braking zone where drivers will need to brake much earlier than you would expect them to, and as they come down into left-hander, it's all about getting back to full throttle as soon as possible, but managing the understeer, for as they make their way through the Kinker 7, it's in the charge for the double right-hander of 300R all the way down towards Dunlop corner hairpin at turn number 10. There's another heavy braking zone, much like at turn number 1, and our drivers will make their way through the turn 10, 11, 12 chicane sequence before heading up the hill towards turn number 13. A sharp right-hander that's heavily off-camber. We'll see our drivers drift wide if they carry too much speed, and they go up through turns 14 and 15 through Nets Bend, perhaps the trickiest corner on the circuit, because it's a rising left-hander followed up by a heavy braking zone. But the thing about turn 15 and Nets in particular is it's a blind summit apex. You cannot see the apex curve until you've broken for it and you've put your left-hand tyre onto it, and you'll see more about that in qualifying. But as our drivers make their way through turn turn 15, then up to Panasonic corner and turn number 16 there, also known as Toyota corner, given the Toyota logos that are typically seen by it. It is a corner which is a very unique one, the fact there are at least 4 different racing lines for the corner, and that means you can have 3 4 wide into the corner, which closeness battling, and I would expect we're going to see some lunges into that final corner, but whoever gets it right then needs to set up the run onto the start-finish straight, and therefore it's just going to be as much about the drag race to the finish line as it will be about the entire lap. As we come on to our rules for today, we'd just like to remind you this is a fixed setup series with setups provided to our drivers ahead of each round by the NXTGEN Racing Administration. And driver class wise, the driver classes have now been finalised as of the conclusion of the Road America round, and that was round 3 a week ago. If we see any new drivers on the grid, they will be assigned provisionally based on their previous stats from the NXTCC. However, they will be assigned more aggressively in terms they'll be put in the higher class if needed before being dropped down to the lower class. Sprint race wise, race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given. The race 2 grid shall be set based on results of race number 1. So the winner of race 1 starts on pole for race number 2, and we work our way down the finishing positions to set the grid. And the race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid based on results of race 2, with the reversal position being drawn live from between P13 and P23. And well, for context, we'll cut to the commentary booth and I'll do the lottery bowl draw there, and whichever numbers we pull out of the bowl, we'll add them together between P13 and P23 will be the total, and that'll be our number which we reverse the grid from. And last time out was P14. We're hoping for a slightly bigger number this evening. Now each driver shall have 1 fast repair available in each race. We're not expecting any of our drivers to come into the pits for repair work, and each race will conclude after either the allotted lap amount or 30 minutes, whichever one expires sooner. And with 11 laps of racing, we are expecting the races to go for approximately 20 to 21 minutes with no safety cars, but if needed, we have multiple safety cars or an extended safety car, then we will call time at 30 minutes on each and every race. Now coming on to the wider rules, race stewarding wise, an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and also the deployment of the safety car, and the penalties for track limit infringements shall be distributed as follows. The first and second warnings, there's no penalty, it's just a warning. The third one, it's a 5-second post-race time penalty. The fourth warning is doubled to 10 seconds, and the fifth warning, it's a drive-through penalty. And drive-through penalties must be served within 3 laps, and racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. And also, lastly, just to give you a reminder, success ballast is in effect as this round. Indeed, it has been since the start of the season, where success ballast is applied on a race-by-race basis. For qualifying and race 1, the success ballast is applied on the top 10 drivers in the overall Drivers' Championship, based on the standings prior to each round. So you saw that earlier on today in the broadcast. So that'll be how the success ballast is applied initially. But then in race 2, we see the success ballast is updated to the top 10 overall finishers in race 1. And then we do the same again for race number 3, based on the top 10 overall finishers in race number 2. And you can see the 2 tables there, which explain the success ballast, which is applied to each position, and it ranges all the way from 56.1 kilograms all the way down to 4.7 kilograms, depending on whether you're in first, all the way down in 10th. And I'll tell you one thing, regardless of how much weight you're carrying, you are going to feel it here, particularly on that start-finish straight. And more first through to 5th are definitely going to feel that success ballast when they make their way into the heavier braking zones around here in terms of getting the car stopped in time. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're all here for the racing, and so are we in the commentary booth. And as we look to circuit side, let's take a look to some new drivers on the grid today, and we have 2 of them, and you see one of them parked up there, and that is Benjamin McCluskey, the 531 driver who brings the Hyundai Veloster to the circuit for this season, and he's going to be racing as a privateer under the name of NXTGEN Racing, but he's not part of the official NXTGEN Racing teams that are competing in the Teams Championship as far as I'm aware. So welcome to McCluskey. Indeed, you will have seen him on the grid in seasons 1, 2 and 3, and he's making his return in season 4 as this round, and he'll be in the Prime class to begin with based on previous performances. And we also do have on the grid Andrew Holmes, so we can see here the Audi RS3 driver, the privateer, making his way on through turn 6 into 7 there, the hairpin, and he's making his way on around in the Pro class, a very fast driver in his own right in the number 16, and we're very eager to see how he gets on here today. I do believe he competed in seasons 1 and 2 of the NXTCC. I don't quite recall him being on the grid for season 3, but again, my memory might need to be a little bit jogged there, so feel free to let me know if I'm wrong, ladies and gentlemen. But good luck to Andrew Holmes as well, good luck to the pair of them, and we look forward to seeing them mixing things up today. But speaking of mixing things up, let's mix things up a little bit and say hello to you guys and girls in the chat. And in particular, we've got quite a few of you here in the YouTube chat currently, or in particular all about the gyro, who says a haiku for full tilt. But we are in Japan, the home of the haiku, of course, and saying there our mighty full tilt, embracing zen and purpose, onwards to our goal. And well, great haiku there from you all about the gyro. And well, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any haikus, if you've ever been to Japan and whatnot, recall your experience there, as meanwhile Alex Meredith will be recalling his experience from last time out at Road America, and looking to do well today, the Chemical E Motorsport driver, as he makes his way down into turn at number 6, and we're coming on through left-hander there, and in the Hyundai Elantra, and a very strong driver in the Prime class here, and definitely one someone we're expecting to do well here today, and well, a maturity that belies his youth and something which definitely he holds in his stride. As he heads on down, don't be shy, feel free to say hi in the chats, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you're a first time viewer or a viewer of old, let us know how you're doing, how your week started off, and particularly if you're in the UK, you've had a bank holiday Monday. Hopefully we've been able to rest, therefore you've all been fired up for a first day working Tuesday today. But if you haven't had the time off on Monday, still, we hope you're all doing well. And if you're not having a great day, hopefully we can turn that frown upside down through some classic touring car racing action today. But as we do see Meredith making his way on towards the end of a lap, we do look to Mikey Doble, your pro championship leader here for Doble Sim Racing, and we're in the Veloster there and in a livery that is a tribute to the car he's racing in the real world of BTCC this year in the Powermax Vauxhall. And well, we don't quite have a Vauxhall on the grid, but we do have the closest thing to it, the Veloster, and he decides to make his way back to the pit lane. Currently second fastest in this practice session, but the fastest man on circuit is none other than Lee Horn, the Pro-Am fastest driver right now, and overall fastest driver for Sam Cases with NXTGEN. But do keep in mind, when that start finish straight around here, the lap time is going to come with regards to the straight line speed slipstream just as much as it is with regards to technicality in the corners. So for a lot of drivers, it definitely is going to be one here where you want a good time qualifying, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in due course. But meanwhile, Reese Watt makes his way on through turn 2 and up towards 3 in the JW Motorsport Audi RS3. And what I can tell you one thing, we are eagerly looking forward to seeing Reese Watt finally have a day to celebrate. It's been mixed fortunes aplenty so far for Reese Watt, and well, he is one of those very strong drivers out there. It must be said, he's a classic driver, and indeed in seasons 2 and 3 absolutely going all in, and well, he was the first driver in the Prime class to ever take an overall win. And some of you may remember that race 3, that legendary race 3 at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben in Germany. Well, we have to stop the recollection right now, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time to turn our focus to qualifying. 15 minutes, all the drives out there, but who will come out on top? Let's find out. Now, as the drivers gradually make their way out of the pit lane, if you're wondering why you just saw the overlay refresh, is it your TV or your PC screen? No, it's not. It's on our side. We had a slight technical fault there. Those do happen every so often, so we just have to refresh the overlay. But 15 minutes in qualifying and a lap time here of approximately 1 minute and 50 seconds. Well, if you put the two together, that means effectively we do have what is a lap time that really is going to eat up a lot of qualifying time. And as our drivers make their way on round, therefore they're not going to have that many laps to get this right. But the big question you may be asking, how many laps do exactly they have to get it right? Well, if you do an out lap and put it at approximately 2 minutes, if not 2 minutes 10, and then you wind the time forward on from then, you are looking at approximately what will be 5 to 6 fast laps available to our drivers here. But also time degradation is quite high at the Fuji International Speedway, and because of that, it does mean that you normally do have to come in after 2 to 3 laps to get a fresh pair of tyres on before you can go qualifying again. Now, what can we expect in qualifying, and why is the high tyre degradation such a key factor here? Well, firstly, why is there such high tyre degradation in the first place? Well, simply put, it's because of the fact there are a lot of corners around here which are extended sweepers. They're high load corners, and particularly on the left hand side tyres. The most notable one being at turns 4 and 5, and also the run coming out to turn 7 all the way down towards turn 10. And you also do have with the Dunlop hairpin, as we've just seen what it is there, Isaac Doble making his way on through, and Panasonic corner. But those left side tyres definitely take the brunt of the wear here, and it means that with a high track temperature as well, albeit I think that track temperature may have dropped quite recently, we may have to take a look at that very shortly. In fact, we can get an update on that track temperature. And it's dropped to 32 degrees centigrade, so it's not going to be as punishing, but we do know as soon as we head above 40 degrees centigrade, behind it, Elantras in particular really start to suffer. Well, we can see while the Velocity's here not suffering by comparison, just letting the field on through, and that is in the form of Luke Jones there for JW Motorsport as he tucks in behind Ian Manners in the Honda Civic Type R, his teammate, and then they've got Reese Watt just in front. Now that brings us on nicely to our expectations in qualifying, and you're already seeing it to a degree, which is that the teams are going to try and gain the slipstream off one another here in order to be able to get the best possible time. Because that slipstream on the start-finish straight alone is worth approximately half a second to a lap time, and if you can nail the rest of the lap and also pick up a little bit of toe coming out of turn 6 down towards turn 10, that's also worth approximately 2 tenths. So you could, through the aid of slipstream, gain the lap which is essentially 7 tenths faster than your peers who do the lap without any toe, and therefore having a slipstream buddy to work with is absolutely critical. Now you may be wondering as well, what about the lap itself beyond the straight? What's important here? Well, you need to be precise with regards to your braking zones and also your turning points and your throttle reapplication. Now it sounds like we're pretty much quoting every little bit of a driver's technique, but those are the 3 main points around here, given the fact this circuit flows very aggressively with regards to the car. It's a very fast flying circuit, but on top of that as well, it's one whereby if you hit your apex right, you'll carry 3 to 4 mile an hour speed much more compared to if you get the corner slightly wrong or you're just out by approximately a metre or two in regards to your turning point or your braking point, and it all adds up over the entirety of the lap. So this circuit demands precision, but it also demands slipstream effect. It's a very hard circuit to get absolutely spot on, but that's what makes it such a fun circuit to drive around, in the fact that it is a circuit where you find yourself in a rhythm, in a flow very quickly, and you want to keep enacting that flow from lap to lap, as we do see the SRL driver here of Dan Mould making his way on down through the Dunlop hairpin and coming on through the subsequent chicane here. He's tucked in behind Matthew Cheverton as he makes his way up the road and, well, charging up the hill now, and this gradual altitude rise here as they go from the lowest point of the circuit at Dunlop hairpin at turn number 10 all the way out to the highest point, which is the run out of Panasonic corner onto the start finish straight, which is a very sudden elevation rise compared to a very gradual elevation change over the rest of the lap to start with. And again, that's an interesting contrast, as we can see there the two different lines of approach, where Cheverton going overly deep through the final corner. Meanwhile, by comparison, Mould getting extremely close and in the toe here as he got too close potentially to benefit. We'll have to see. First time on the board, Mikey Doble was a 52.348. Now, how will our drivers try and compound on top of it? We did see a 50s in the practice session really being the forte, and could we see any 49s as well in qualifying? That's the big question. But Mould goes visual pole down to 51.7 at 310, but keep in mind that drivers will be burning off some extra fuel right now as they continue to get their cars up to temperature. And well, meanwhile, we look to Giorgio Valai, the HHR driver, making his way on down there, charging at full throttle. And while the Elantra very strong in terms of its power application, a good all-rounder, and the only key win has been its tyre wear compared to its rivals. That's the thing that holds it back. As he heads across the line, he goes on to another lap. That first lap not valid, and I think deciding to simply let the first one go and go all in on the next one. As he heads on down the round, we've still got plenty of other drivers making the way towards the end of their first laps, including Full Tilt V Motorsports' Ben Altrier here as he heads on through, and he goes at P10 on ways of 52.986. He's a bit lonely out there at the moment with 5 minutes of his qualifying session completed, so therefore he will be mindful of the fact he'll ideally want to try and find somebody if he can't find one of his teammates in order to be able to get the slipstream to aid him as he makes his way on around. We also do look to Benjamin McCluskey, who crossed the line and he goes P8 on his first qualifying lap of the season, a 52.376, and well, it's a good lap there for McCluskey to do it unaided as well. We can see that delta there of 6.5 tenths to Mould's lap, and we saw a good portion of Mould's lap, and we saw how he was in the toe of Cheverton for the final part of the lap, and that is that precise point of slipstream immediately coming in. So you can imagine that right now, if McCluskey finds the toe, he could be right up there, and we are potentially going to see here today primes really push themselves into that top 10. If they can find a toe, there is no reason why we couldn't see a top 10 that's half and half pro and pro-am, and that could really change up the mix with regards to how the racing goes, particularly in our first race of the day. But still, we look to Alex Meredith as he's still trying to get his first time on the board. He's just following up the hill now behind one of the Full Tilt Motorsport cars. I do believe, I'm not quite sure who that is, I think that might be Kent, in fact Mark Kent, who's just in front of him as they make the way to the line here. We're coming to E Motorsport driver now, back from holiday of course, and missing out last week's round, and therefore having to now go for broke for the remainder of the season, with there being a one drop score later on in the season that will come into effect if my memory serves me correctly. As he heads across the line, what's it going to be for Meredith? It's only P27 thus far at 53.920, and one of the chances to catch up with him in the paddock in the build-up to today, he was saying this is one of those circuits he rates very highly there because of the way this circuit flows. It has a very natural feel to it, a very enjoyable feel, and what we look forward to seeing that come out from Meredith as he makes his way on down through turns 2 and 3. But as he does, we look from him to a driver who's coming towards what will be the end of a lap very shortly, and that will be none other than Nick Clemens, who gets ready to take us around for a flying lap of the Fuji International Speedway. Well, as he charges his way down the start finish straight here, and we jump on board with the iRacing Sports driver at 135 miles an hour. He crosses the timeline and now heading up towards the opening braking zone, looking to his left-hand side for his brake marker and braking at what will be the 140 metre marker there, coming all the way down to second gear, mounts the apex curve, used it to rotate the car, and now out of the corner and onwards towards turn 2, through the kink flat out, and up towards turn number 3. Now with a brief breather here, he'll look to his right side, look for his brake marker, it'll be the 50 metre board, and he'll go onto the brakes just before it, dropping a 4th gear there, chopping off the apex curve of the corner, and we can see that, I believe that was Daniel Fritz getting it very wrong, but he comes down through turn 4, very tight to the apex here, you have to be incredibly tight to turn 4 to set up the run through turn 5. You can see the balance in the front as he makes his way up the hill into turn number 6. onto the brakes here through the hairpin. Nice early braking 75 meters in the corner apex. And now up the gears he goes, using the full width of the corner on exit and pounding his way through turns 8 to 9 through 300R as he heads all the way down towards the Dunlop hairpin chicane. And we're looking to his right for his brake marker, and it will be 100 meters in the corner apex, braking underneath the Dunlop billboard down to first gear. It goes a little bit deep there. You can see the car just sliding away from him slightly, just braking a little bit too late, but brings it back together through the chicane. Second gear as he heads up towards turn 13, down a gear into second, get a late apex, mount the curve, push through, and now up through next bend here, the sweeping left-hander at turn 14, and immediately straighten the steering wheel, and you've got to go onto the brakes in order to set yourself up for the corner. You can see there how he has to try and mount up onto a blind apex as he comes on through turn 15, now up towards 16's Panasonic corner, decides to go deep here. I think feeling as though this hasn't been an ideal lap, albeit it's been an improving lap across the board so far. I think Clemens will be going for an even fast one the next time around. But now he's charged his way down to the time lane. He's got to hope at this point he's nailed that final corner exit. There's no ifs or buts here. If he's done it right, he'll be rewarded. If he hasn't done it right, he'll soon know about it. And what's it going to be for Clemens as he heads across the timeline? Where he goes from P28 to P24 in a 52.178. But still, it's a long way off. The pole lap has been set in the prime class, and that's P2 overall, as held by this man, Russell Fowler. As we can see, the Performance Link Esports driver caught up by Matthew Sheraton right now in the tow in the Audi RS3. Currently there, only off the pole by 700, and that is on a 50.73 to nearest 100 versus Dan Moult's 50.66. And we are heading towards the end of the second, third qualifying session. So shortly, we only have 5 minutes remaining, plus also the overtime from our final qualifying laps from our drivers. But the point being right now, it's starting to get towards the more testy end of qualifying, whereby now if our drivers haven't found a tow for their qualifying laps, they're going to be eager to do so. And well, there's a little bit of a gentleman's rule which does say if somebody gives you the tow for the purposes of your qualifying lap, then you're expected to do the same on the next one. It's not a rule in this league, it's a gentleman's rule when the drivers do go into qualifying and racing out of mutual respect. And we look forward to seeing that potentially being paid between our drivers and coin today, as we do see Fowler coming across the line. And well, it's not an improvement, but meanwhile Ian Manners does improve from behind. He's now P6 on the 50.962, so we do have what is a good number of drivers in the top 7 there into what is the 50s, but meanwhile contact there between Russell Fowler and Isaac Doble, and contact I believe from Fowler just missing his braking point and carrying too much speed. It's very easy to do there, and well, the two of them ended up in a bit of disaster. But meanwhile, looking from there to Daniel Lewis as he crosses the timeline, and the SRL driver here goes to P26 with 51.892. It's not quite enough yet so far to get inside that top 20, and he'll be wondering where that time's coming from. But the Audi RS3 driver, I think, will know a lot of it will be in the tow as he tries to get a little bit close there to the car in front of Lucas Golch as they make the way on around. But he charges his way on through. All right, now we can see it going a bit slow there as Lucas Golch, and just back it off and letting Lewis go. And some drivers, to be fair, will prefer to qualify without a tow. They'll just feel as though it's more naturally suited to them, albeit they have to expect it comes with the risk of qualifying much further down. But in the race, they may be able to pick up some places by being bold on the opening couple of laps. But again, a slipstream assisted qualifying isn't always what drivers enjoy doing. Some enjoy just being out there in clear air by themselves and delivering a lap. But definitely we're seeing the effects of the slipstream and how potent it is here today. We are 35 drivers on the grid, all pushing on here. And the only driver yet to get a lap on the board is this man, Ian Wild, in the pink-black Hyundai Elantra, as he makes his way through turns 4 and 5 and hoping to get a lap on the board here. He'll want some positions rather than being starting right from the back, because overtaking here is highly possible at the Fuji International Speedway, but still, overtakes cost a lot of time, particularly when you go too wide into the sweeping corners. You can lose about 3 to 4 attempts through turns 4 and 5, for example, or even down by the Dunlop hairpin, we should say. You'll be losing 3 attempts when you go for a move there on the inside. But as he makes his way on through the aforementioned right-hander, takes plenty of apex curve there, and you have to be aware of the fact you cut too much of that curve, you unsettle the car, but you also come across track limit infringement, and the automated shielding system will immediately take that lap away from you. As he heads up the hill, he has got behind him Benjamin McCluskey. McCluskey there getting a little bit furtive with regards to looking for a potential way through. I think McCluskey has to respect the fact that Wild is on lap, and you see he's in fact backed off entirely there, and he's backing off significantly to give himself some room. Albeit I think he's also hoping he might be able to bump into another car, but the next car is a long way away. It's Isaac Doble going through turn 9 currently So McCluskey's got the best part of 50 seconds if he wants to wait. Well, he's not going to wait that long. In fact, they'll tell him to get a move on out there from the shielding booth. And meanwhile, we see Wild heading to the timeline as Ben Ultria goes P32 on a 52.365. But Wild comes across the line. Does he find a lap this time around? Or does he stay at the back? In fact, he stays at the back, but he has put a lap on the board. It's a 55.453, and he'll look to try and improve upon that now with 2 laps remaining in his qualifying session. As he makes his way on to another lap. Meanwhile, at the top end of the field, it's still this man from SRL, down at Mould, who is leading the way in qualifying on that 50.657. He's yet to improve upon it. His last lap was a 50.76, the nearest 100. We can see everybody now stepping aside and backing out of current laps in order to get themselves into the toe, tucking themselves into the train, if you will. And well, meanwhile, one driver is trying to tuck into this train of pro drivers, as we see Mikey Doble there sliding his way under brake into Panasonic corner. The rear of that Veloster almost letting go, and as they make their way down the start-finish straight, we've got a car running wide there. That's Reese Watt, who's making his way on the circuit via a rallycross line as he brings it back on safety there, not to impede other drivers. Although I think Sheraton will feel as though he's had to break off line slightly. That's going to cost him a little bit of speed. The Mould comes across the timeline. He does not improve this time around. Does anybody improve? That's the question. I don't think so. But everyone going on to one last lap here in qualifying if they're not already onto it. Meanwhile, Michael Lees moves up to P11. But look at that inside the top 10 currently. We've only got 3 pros, and then the rest are pro-ams. And, well, we've got more pro-ams than we have got pros on this grid this season. But the point being right now is definitely the day of the pro-ams, and a lot of them finding that slipstream to get themselves right up there. And this could definitely be a race that is going to shake the field quite significantly. And also, it could really upset both the pro-am and in terms of the Higgins Automotive Championship and also the overall Drivers' Championship today. And, well, we've never seen a consistent pro-am inside the top 10. Isaac Doble being the one to try and subvert that. Could we see a couple more primes jump the way into the top 10 come the end of today in terms of standings going to round number 5? Well, it's a wish, I definitely would say. And Michael Lisa getting it very wrong into turn number 6 has to go long, and that'll be his qualifying session done and dusted. But meanwhile, as we do look to what it is, Adam Delmont making his way on down. He's going to be one of our last drivers on the flying lap. We can see here the NXTGEN Racing driver heading into turn number 3 in the Mark Sykes Designs machine, drifting his way into the corner. Very light on fuel, the car, and also that rear brake balance, and in doing so, that's going to make the car very, very sketchy under brake. And in return, if he can balance it enough, he will gain time to have that extra rotation in the car from the outset before he applies the steering wheel. As he comes down into turn 6 again, you can see the rear of the car just sliding loose under braking, and well, that car definitely on the ragged edge right now for Adhesion. And if he can keep it pointed in a straight line, well, could this be a better lap? As meanwhile, speaking of better laps, we had Jamie Dory go P2 there, 50.707, only a half a tenth of a Dan Mold's pole time. We also had Gavan Garner jump up to P4, Russell Fowler still P3, Kieran Sharp moves to P6. Have we got anybody else who's going to improve? Well, Lee Horner backs off here. He's decided he's coming into the pits, enough's enough. Matthew Shepperton goes P29 on 51.892. Manners moves up to P7 on a 50.901. We've still got a few more drives heading towards the end of the laps, including at Mark Sykes, and well, he makes his way on down here, but I think he's heading towards the pit lane, given he's over to the right hand side of the start finish straight from the driver's perspective. What about Lucas Colch? Meanwhile, he's heading on down as well. He's coming into the pit lane, so he feels as though he's done enough here today. It'll be a P33 start from him at best. Meanwhile, Daniel Lewis heads on down, and the Audi RS3 drive here has not improved in any of the 3 sectors based on our board, so I think that's going to be a lap which is less to be desired. Meanwhile, Adam Delmont heads to the line. He's improved in sector 1, he's improved in sector 3, he's currently P21, 6.5 tenths off a pole, and now he moves up to P8 there, finding some toe right in. It's a 50.937, that's an important lap for Delmont. And meanwhile, we've also got Ian Wild heading on around right now. He's found improving in sectors 1 and 2, and well, will he move from P35? No, he stays there, but now only 6 tenths off a car side in P34, as meanwhile Benjamin McCluskey goes to P4. It's not enough to dethrone Russell Fowler from pro and pole, but it comes close. It's out by 300ths in the end, and that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. An interesting qualifying session to say the least. It's Dan Mould on overall pole, and Russell Fowler, who'll be starting P3 on the overall grid. He is your prime pole sitter, and between the term is Jamie Dory. I think some success bias also making itself felt, and well, the most notable reason for that success bias making itself felt is the fact we've got Mikey Doble starting P31, and well, he's going to be battling against the elements. He'll be damage and limitation in our first race of the day, and he'll try and pick up the opportunities where he can. But other stand-up performances do include Ian Manners, We'll be starting at P8 there for JW Motorsport, and a great qualifying session there from the Honda Civic Type R driver. And this circuit does cater to all 4 machines in this TCR league, whether it be the Honda Civic Type R for its cornering and braking abilities, and it also works very well through sweeping extended corners such as turns 4 and 5 and turn 3. Also to the Audi with straight line speed and acceleration, particularly on the start finish straight, and also coming out of turn at 6 and 7. And we also do have the Velocity that is a jack of all trades, a master of none, and the Elantra again being very strong over a single lap. But either way you cut it, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to head to the grid for our first race of the day. And as our drivers make their way onto the grid for race number 1 of round 4 of season 4 of the NXTCC, sponsored by Higgins Automotive, brought to you on iRacing. Dan Mole takes pole position overall for Team SRL, joined on the front row by fellow pro driver NXTGEN Racing Pink's Jamie Doble. Behind him on row number 2, it's Russell Fowler, the pro and pole sitter for Performance Link Esports, and he's joined by fellow pro and Benjamin McCluskey, who starts P4 for NXTGEN Racing. We then have on row number 3, NXTGEN Racing Pink's Gavan Gardner, who is joined by Alex Meredith for Chemical E Motorsport, with Kieran Sharp starting the full row of the grid for the Sim Racing Collective, joined by JW Motorsport's Ian Manners. Round off the top 10 on row 5, it's Mark Sykes Designs' Adam Delman and Matthew Addy for Sam Casey for NXTGEN, with P11 going to Lee Horn for Sam Casey for NXTGEN, and alongside him iRacing Esports' Alan McCain P12. On row number 7, it'll be Sam J. Smith for iRacing Esports, joined by JW Motorsports for Reswap, and then it's Michael Lease on row number 8 for Mark Sykes Designs, joined by the privateer Andrew Holmes. On row number 9, it's John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective, who is joined by Doble Sim Racing's Isaac Doble, with the top 20 being rounded off by Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports and Full Tilt V Motorsports' Mark M. On row number 11, it's Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, Ace of Spades Racing Shane Piggott, with row 12 going to Joseph Doble for Doble Sim Racing and JW Motorsports Luke Jones. And on row at number 13, it'll be Stephen Daly for Team 4XR by KC Motorsport and Mark Sykes Designs Mark Sykes. On row number 14, Paul Scott for Sam Cases with NXTGEN, and then their Whiskey Runners with NXTGEN at Daniel Fritz. And then we have behind them on row at number 15 to complete the top 30, Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing and SRL's Daniel Lewis. With a row at number 16 going to Giorgio Belay. Well, in fact, it's Giorgio Belay for Scone Cold Digital HHR and Full Tilt V Motorsports Ben Altria. Row at number 17 will go to Lucas Colch for Scone Cold Digital HHR and Full Tilt V Motorsports Philip Garside. And the final row of the grid will go to Ian Wolf for CS Sim Racing with Mally Motors there starting P35 out of 35. As all of our drivers now get themselves positioned, we are only seconds away from going green flag racing, ladies and gentlemen. And the grid is set, and now we do await the lights. One red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for our first race of the day here at the Fuji International Speedway. And Dan Mole gets a phenomenal start off of the line. But meanwhile, Jamie Dory under pressure immediately from Russell Fowler. But keep your eyes on Benjamin McCluskey going over to the left. But Gavan Gardner trying to come through in the middle. And as they make their way into the braking zone, Dory's got to defend here. As Fowler trying to go all the way round. That's going to be a bold move from him as they make the way on through. All the drives safely through the opening couple of corners, it would seem. And as they make the way on down towards turn number 3, we immediately look back to the front of the field here as they charge the way on through. And the field right now starting to go line astern as they head up towards turn 4 or 5. Couple of cars going wide there, but they'll get away with it for the first time. And as they come down towards turn 4, you can see everyone stacking up now into the sweeping right-hander, with Reese Watt looking for a move on Alan McCain and trying to gain some ground as Alan McCain has lost 1 place overall, but beyond that has not lost anything in class. But 2 wide, they all merge coming down to the hairpin as they do. Reese Watt there, one moment was there contact, we're not quite sure, but he rejoins, albeit the car goes sideways, collects Michael Lees. A couple of cars collected as well. It's pandemonium at turn number 6, but it looks so most drivers are able to steer clear of the danger. But meanwhile, from danger to battling, we see Benjamin McCluskey under pressure from Gavan Gardner, as Gardner trying to look for his way around the outside. And as they make the way through the hairpin and up the hill they go for the Dunlop chicane. Well, McCluskey right now keeping Gardner at bay, and Gardner I think very eager to make headway as well. Got a car going wide there. I believe that was none other than Alan McCain who was taking a bit with that. That wasn't Alan McCain, that was Sam Smith taking a bit of an adventurous approach to turn at number 12, and I think he might have an automated slowdown for that as Lee Horn and McCain here battling hard through Nets Bend. And McCain's going to have the run. He's going to have the inside here of Alex Meredith as well, so Meredith's going to look vulnerable as they make the way up towards turn number 16. As they head up through the right-hander here, up the inside goes Meredith. Well, Meredith's trying to come back and already trying to give us an example of how wide Panasonic corner is and how you can go 2, 3, 4 wide if you want to. But as they make the way down the start finish straight, it's going to be McCain versus Meredith as they head down towards turn 1 once again. And at the front of the field, it's Dan Mould who leads out of Russell Fowler P2. P2 being our prime leader. Jamie Dory P3 ahead of Benjamin McCluskey P4. But like Gavan Gardner P5, Kieran Sharp P6, Ian Manners P7, Matthew Addy P8 battling with Adam Delman P9. And it's Sam Smith who completes your top 10 with best dressed Alan McCain P11. 11 behind. But meanwhile, speaking of those battles, we can see there it was Kieran Sharp making his way past Ian Manners, but Matthew Addy here trying to make the move at Count versus Sam Smith. He gets it done up the inside. They'll be losing out to Delman a little bit earlier on, and further back Lee Horn still battling here with Alan McCain as they make the way onwards towards turn number 3 once again, with Shane Piggott also making some early ground there in the background for Ace of Spades Racing. But as our drives come off at turn 3 and down towards 4-5 they go, Piggott's got to be careful in running wide there because there is a V-shaped trench inside the exit curve at turn number 3, and if you do dip a tyre in there with steering lock applied, the car will go wide, there's no question about it. But Piggott defending hard here versus Daly for P15 as they come down through a left-hander of the hairpin and making their way on through, charging up towards turn number 10 they go right now, and will side by side they exit, but it's going to be Piggott who gets the better run, and that Veloster does have the horses by comparison with the Civic Type R when they make the way into these acceleration zones. We're coming down to the braking zone, and just behind Joseph Doble under pressure from Luke Jones. Jones trying to be the aggressor here, trying to find his way on through. We will take a look back shortly at what happened with regards to that instant into turn number 6 on the open lap, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll give you an update on that when we can. But meanwhile, as our drives all push on here, well, Joseph Doble keeping it Jones at bay, and now I think feeling a bit more comfortable here as they make the way up the hill towards turn number 15. But definitely right now it looks as though the Doble Sim Racing pair, Mikey Doble and Joseph Doble, both up against the elements here with regards to the positions. In fact, Mikey Doble down in P25 off camera, but looking from them, one of the biggest gainers at the start of this race, Lucas Colcher's going called Digital HHR. He's gained 7th place in the Pro-Am class. He's up to P14 Pro-Am and what is P23 overall. Remember, the classes do score. Well, the Pro-Am class scores up 50 points for the top 15 places in the class, and there's also overall points for the top 15 overall finishing positions as well. So putting that together, it does mean that Colcher could be on course here to pick up some good points in class today in this first race. He makes his way onto lap number 3, and as he heads on down here, it's the battle of the slipstream once again, and this time it's going to be Mark Sykes battling with Luke Jones for P18 overall as they head on to the break. Jones trying to go around the outside, Sykes on the inside there. We've got Paul Scott going slowly coming up the pit lane, and as they make the way down, it will be, I think that's Andrew Holmes going slowly there. Similar liveries between the two drives, my apologies, but as they make the way towards turn number 3, we can see there that right now it's not going to be Jones who gives in, as Sykes still side by side here. Brilliant racing between the two of them. One of them is going to have to give in the end before turn 4, and it will be Sykes who decides to yield, but he's right behind Jones as they wind their way uphill, and we ride on board here with the Audi RS3 from Mark Sykes Designs, who now has to back off slightly under braking into turn number 6 on the tighter line here. That is going to compromise his exit degree as Daniel Fritz now is in within 4 tenths, but Fritz in the Hyundai behind him will not be able to catch up in terms of the straight line pull. He'll be hoping for the toe and use that to his advantage as we continue to ride on board with Sykes down towards turn number 10, and onto the brakes he goes here, and will the Audi quite strong on the brakes as well as he comes on through close to Jones once again. We can see that Constantina effect in action, but also know how the Audi right now having to stay in 3rd gear. It can't drop down to 2nd given how highly strong it is in the lower to mid gear range, where it always wants to be in a high gear. It's always trying to push, and it's this last section of the circuit where the Audi is really hurt with regards to its gearing compared to its rivals. He takes a huge amount of the apex curve there at turn 15. Got to be careful of those track limits as Sykes. He doesn't want to cut it too much, and as they make the way into turn number 16 with the Audi right now at the best part of 9 tenths behind. He will get the better exit, however, out of Panasonic corner, and this is where he'll start to close up, but a bit too far back this time around as they make the way on to another lap. But as they do, we take a look back at what happened on the open lap to Reece Watt. Well, as they make the way up the hill into the braking zone, what their switch out in contact with Michael Lease, in fact, as that triggered off a chain reaction. And also there we got to see was Alex Meredith being tapped. In fact, that wasn't Alex Meredith, that was Andrew Holmes being in contact. We take a look back at what happened to Andrew Holmes from his perspective on board, and we're into the braking zone here. In fact, he was behind the Sim Racing collective car, we should say, of what was that? I think that was, I believe that John Higgins Jr. was collected, and Holmes trying to go around the outside of the scene of the incident, and in the end being collected as a result of it all. So a nasty moment there for a good number of drives, but we had to rejoin, and further contact there on the rejoin. We take another look back at that contact from the blimp view this time, and this may give us a complete picture of what happened. So then contact between Watt and Lease, there was John Higgins Jr. being turned across. You see Holmes tries to go around the outside, and then in the end contact with John Higgins Jr. Lease being connected again, Mikey Doble going all the way around the outside, and as all the seas passed in the end, it was a disaster for many a driver, with Holmes coming into further contact. Also Cheverton there in contact with Mark Kent by the looks of things, and multiple drivers being caught up in that one as we return to your live pictures. And as we do, we get a refresh of the overlay there because our circuit man decides to hide itself, and we don't want it to hide. As they make the way on through the Dunlop chicane coming towards the end of lap number 4. drivers pushing on hard now. Indeed, that's been our only major instance to really talk about in this race. Otherwise, it's been relatively sedate thus far. And well, the car you did see going slowly down the start-finish straight, we can confirm was Andrew Holmes letting drivers on through after his repair work, being a lap down there, respecting the blue flags. And as they make the way up towards the end of lap 4 right now, Sykes is still chasing after Jones, but looking from Sykes, we look a little bit further back to Matthew Cheverton, who balanced side by side here with what is, I do believe, Ian Will for P29. Goes up the inside there, Internet gets it done, but keep in mind that now he's got to try and break away coming out of Panasonic corner. I think he'll try and go a bit deep here. Will looks up the inside, but Cheverton there cuts off the nose before it's too late and gets a brilliant exit. And that's going to give him all the run he needs here before the slipstream equalises their top end speed, and Cheverton gets another place gained, where it's now going to be damage limitation. He's setting himself up for the next race of the day. But meanwhile, looking from there, we look back to Adam Delmont versus Ian Manners. And as Delmont here defends versus Manners, he's just found his way up into P7, it should be pointed out. Manners now behind him. The JW Motorsport driver looking for a P3 in the Pro-Am class here as a minimum, but ideally like to get some top 10 points overall. But I think also what he's got to gauge at this point is, does he want the success balance that top 10 overall finish will take with him into the second race of the day? And well, he can't give up too many places. He was in P10, is Matthew Addy the 4th place Pro-Am driver right now. But I think if Manners gets towards the end of this race, he might think about potentially letting Smith through, who's in P9, and therefore he reduces the success balance versus his Pro-Am rivals. There does have to be a little bit of a tactical play here for the Pro-Am drivers, because again, they're not normally expected to be picking up success balance, but when they do, it can definitely hamper them. And Fowler versus McCluskey in the battle for P3, P4 overall right now is definitely a sign of how far they're coming, but also how much they're going to be feeling the weight later on. And speaking of weight, well, right now he's got the weight on his shoulders here as McCluskey, as a good friend off the circuit, but rival on circuit of Gavan Garner still trying to poke and probe his way through. And Garner once again inside the top 5 here. He can't quite make progress towards the podium, but the key point being the next gen Racing Pink Audi RS3 here to stay and definitely making itself felt as they make the way out of Panasonic corner for the 5th time of asking. But from them, looking at the front of the field, Jamie Dory and Dan Mould now nose to tail together here as they make their way down the start finish straight. And as they do in the charge here, head up towards top speed, and will Mould, after that brilliant start to this race, has started to fall back into the clutches of Dory. And I wonder here whether the Elantra driver of Dory is just trying to put the pace down now and has decided that he's not going to save the tyres to this midpoint of the race. Instead, he's going to push on. He's going to go up the inside here. Too wide into turn 1 they go. Side by side through the apex. Clean racing between the two of them, and Mould not really looking for a cutback here. I think he's hoping that the tyres of that Elantra will go off in the final couple of laps, and therefore he's just going to let this go, tuck in behind, and then look to come on strong towards the end of the race, where the Velocity will have the natural pace advantage. But as they make their way through turn number 3, well, that's the main change at the front of the field on this lap thus far. Meanwhile, a bit further back into turn 3, we've got Lee Horn battling with Isaac Doble. With Isaac Doble having recently found his way ahead of Lee Horn, and as they make their way down through turns 4 and 5, you see Stephen Daly right behind there as they make their way up the rise. We ride on board and look back from the rear of the Doble Sim Racing machine. That's going to be Horn on the inside. It takes a little bit of a look. It's going to get very close as they come through the left-hander, but Horn knowing he can't overstep his boundary. But meanwhile, Stephen Daly says, okay, if you're not going to make the move, I'm going to go around the outside. And the KC Motorsport driver here side by side as the battle of the Civics as they come down the hill in towards turn number 10. Horn's going to be on the inside, and Horn's got to make a judgment call. Does he fight this and let Isaac Doble go? Well, in the end, he almost taps the rear of Isaac Doble's car. That's how close he gets. He almost wipes the camera off the back of the car. But as they make the way through turn number 11 into 12, Isaac Doble right now definitely trying to stay ahead of this, and will feeling at the weight on this car. Remember, he's the only Pro-Am in this race by success base. He's got 4.7 kilograms in the car, but he is going to be punishing. And as he makes his way through turn number 15, you can see Horn and Daly right now eager to get on through, but they're tripping over one another. Horn positions himself on the inside here. I think just as much defense as an offense, and with Alan McCain 1.7 seconds up the road, Doble's got no slipstream to consider. He's got to do this all under his own grunt. But as they make their way down at the start finish straight here onto another lap, they charge. Meanwhile, a bit further back, we have got Daniel Fritz versus Shane Bigger in the battle of the two Velocitas, one for Whiskey Runners and then one for Ace of Spades. And as they make their way towards turn number 1, they've also got in front of them John Higgins Jr., who remember is trying to recover after that shunt at turn number 6 on the opening lap. And well, Higgins Jr. just a victim of that scenario in the end, it would seem, as they made their way through the corner, and right now trying to essentially limit the damage as much as he can into the braking zone. And well, Jr. is going to be on the inside here looking for the move, and goes all in versus Fritz, who sees him coming and doesn't want any part of this, but Fritz goes deep, and as he does, Piggott rubs doors with Fritz. They make the way through turn number 2 towards 3. 3 they go, and Piggott very close, but he can't find a way through. He has not got the speed here as they head through turn number 3, and right now literally bumper to bumper as they make the way down through turn 4 and 5, and well, they're battling for P11 in the Prime class here, some key points in the class championship, and both drivers eager to make those points, but right now it is Fritz who's holding on, the Australian driver. Well, it's the early hours of the morning for him, local time in the simulator, but giving it everything he can do right now in order to hold on, and Piggott throwing everything at this, and we're being confounded thus far with Mikey Doble a bit further back, and then Ben Altria started to close up. It's definitely going to be an interesting battle here for the spots outside the top 10, but in the points of the Prime class when all is said and done. But they on the brakes, Piggott goes all in, he's had another wait in, he goes through a bit of contact between the two of them there, and well, it looks like they're both giving each other as good as they could get as Piggott's forced to the grass. We're after the contact with Fritz coming through turn number 10 into 11, and well, I think both of them may get a brief call to the stewards room after this race to say calm it down, as Doble at the inside there at Piggott, and will Piggott now being bruised and battered around a little bit there by another Veloster, as look at Ben Altria, he's looking up the inside here, and Piggott right now in a wounded car, and not just wounded in terms of his bodywork, but also the driver as well has been knocked about. Well, right now Altria's going to try and go around the outside, but is he going to be able to pull this off? My gut feeling says yes he is, as he turns it into a drag race on the start of this straight, and what's the Elantra good at? It's good at out-dragging its rivals. But Piggott's coming into the pits. There's something with the steering rack of that car. The suspension is not pointing right, and it's unfortunate for the 27 driver who was enjoying a great battle, but it's ended in tears in the end. Meanwhile, Lucas Colge under pressure for P23, P13 Prime versus Paul Scott as they make the way on down towards the braking zone. Well, Scott's going to be on the inside here in the Audi RS3. Left your picture. Colge in the Honda on the right. The Stone Cold Digital HHR driver not quite able to find a way to stay ahead, but what he can do is find a way to cut back. It's a smooth move, but the question is, has he got enough grunt here to head up towards turn 3? I think Paul Scott's got it nailed on the Audi R3 here, and I think he's going to stay ahead as they make the way into left-hander, and indeed he will, as Coach just not quite able to get fully alongside once again and sweep it onto the outside of 3. As they head through turns 4 and 5. Meanwhile, looking from them back up to just outside the top 10 overall. This is Isaac Doble right now battling for P7 in the Prime class ahead of Lee Horn still. And we cut away from these guys a little bit earlier on to the June. And was Isaac Doble already proving to be the cork in the bottle here? And he's still doing so as Horn just cannot simply find a way through no matter what he throws at this. And meanwhile, Stephen Daly having to wait, and the patience of the KC Motorsport driving the former Daly is absolutely admirable, it must be said, as they make the way on through turn number 13. The rear view picture you may have saw Mikey Doble just making a move on Daniel Fritz in the background into Dunlop. We're focusing here on the younger member of the Doble family as he comes on through at turn at number 15 right now. And again, Horn so close, but Doble just able to position the car well enough in order to frustrate it. But you can see how Horn itching to make that potential move. And as they come out to the right hand at turn 15 on the start finish straight they go, you can see how close Horn is this time. And I wouldn't be surprised if now we do see a move going on. Doble's going to pull into the pit wall, and as they make the man down, Horn's going to be made to look around the outside. But the point is, he's got the toe, he's got the time of day, he's still got half a mile of straight to go, and Isaac Doble is going to be pinned all the way over towards the wall. Horn's going to bring on out, he's going to keep himself very tight here, and that's going to make Isaac Doble's line compromise, albeit Horn opens the door up in the end, and will side by side they go onto the brakes. Horn goes around the outside, it's a smooth move from Lee Horn, but in return Isaac Doble gets the elbows out there and says, no you don't, you're going all the way around if you're getting this done. And in the end, Lee Horn is made to wait once again as Stephen Daly watches on behind him. Meanwhile, Adam Delman has just passed Joseph Doble into turn 1, and for what is there, I do believe P15 overall, but as they make the way down the hill, it's almost Delman losing it there coming through turn number 3, as Joseph Doble tucks in behind. It's the battle of the two pros here as they come through the right-hander, and meanwhile at the front of the field, very well spotted there by Mr. BF John, we do have a change of leader once again, with Dan Mould getting back ahead of Jamie Dory. And how did that happen, I hear you ask? We do have a replay, and this is how the move for the lead was made once again by Dan Mould. Going down to the brains over turn number 1, and Dory leaving the door open this time in a very similar move to what we saw between Dory and Mould, albeit Dory trying to go for the cut back there, but notice how Mould parking the car in apex, seeing it coming, and where he's allowed to do that up to a point and doing it absolutely spot on, the number 80 driving the Veloster, and simply cutting off Dory's ability to get the cut back. And now their battle will rage on for the next lap. As they make the way up towards the final corner of lap number 9, they'll only have 2 more laps to go, including the drag race to the finish line. Meanwhile, further battles going on between Kieran Sharp and Sam Smith just behind. They've had quite an interesting side-by-side battle for what has been at P7 overall as they tuck in behind the prime driver Ian Manners, but as they charge their way up towards now lap number 10, well, you can see it's going to be Smith who's a bit further back. It's 3 temps between each of the 3 drivers here as they come on down, and well, it's going to be two Hondas ahead of Elantra. And the Hondas right now, they definitely haven't got the straight line speed, but what they have got is the exit out of turn 16. I think the tyre life now coming into effect for them versus the Elantra. Sharp's going to look around the outside. Is he going to try and set up a dummy here? No, he just stays the outside, lets Manners defend it, and as they come through the corner, well, Sharp's going to try and roll the car of Apex, but he can't quite go for the cutback there. Goes a bit too far off of Apex. In terms of getting back to the front one, I think just staying in the toe instead, as meanwhile behind Stephen Daly. Still behind what is that Isaac Doble. In fact, Lee Horn has found his way past Isaac Doble. He's got the move done off camera, and that's happened very recently indeed. And well, we take a look back at how that move was made for P12 overall, and here is the replay. And well, in the end, it was on lap number 9 into turn number 6. And Horn deciding to go round the outside. Unconventional to do this, given how we've seen Doble defending. But Horn nailing the exit there on the outside line. And you see carrying the speed. And look at Stephen Daly here. And I think this prevented Doble from being able to go back at Horn as they made the way on down. In fact, Bannon on the brakes here into the turn 10 hairpin. And Daly getting ahead. And Isaac Doble in the end have been tucked in behind. And well, after the start finish straight, they swap places back. Doble back ahead of Daly. But Lee Horn getting the move done there. A smart move in the same case for NXTGEN driver, and also using Daly's pressure in order to keep Doble away from him. But we return to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen. Daly's still trying to knock on the door of Doble. He's doing everything to keep a heavy Veloster in position. But meanwhile, Daly, they're scratching, to in and throwing as they make the way up into turn 15 and nets. He still can't fight his way through. But as they head towards the end of this lap, meanwhile, we look to two drivers who are now onto the start finish straight for the penultimate time in this race. And it's Sharp versus Smith, the two pros here, as they've let Ian Manners get away. And with the Sim Racing Collective number 23 driver here has got Smith, who's got no success ballast in that Elantra, versus quite a significant amount of success ballast of P5 in the championship for Sharp. And as they make the way down towards turn number 1, with Sharp having to defend it, but you can see Smith in the toe of Manners at a distance. He will gain the overspeed. You've also got behind one is there, I do believe, Alan McCain trying to get involved. And as they make the way into turn 1, well, Sharp's going to defend inside. Meanwhile, Smith will try and go around the outside there, but Sharp simply says to him, no, you're going to the exit curve instead. But now can Smith get fully alongside in the run up towards turn number 3? It's going to be close here, and Smith's going all in on it. He's deciding he's not going to wait anymore. And as they make the way for a left-hander, Sam Smith with a very nice pass gets it done through the left-hander. Bold to do it, to be fair, and Sharp had to give him the space, but in the end they've changed the places, and now will we see a counter-attack from Sharp into turn 6? He's already going on the offensive with Sharp. He's going all in on the brakes. He says, no, I'm not letting this go. Cuts right in front on the braking, but look at Smith. He cuts back there, and these two are still side by side as they head up towards turn number 10. Sharp back into the toe. He can't quite find a way through at the moment, and that Elantra's got enough on the straight to be able to keep the Honda at bay, and the Honda's got to do it under braking. Sharp once again switches the inside, late on the brakes here, gliding up the discs, and they make the way through the corner. Contact between the two, Sharp being very aggressive there, right on the threshold of what's permitted. And as they make the way through 11 and 12, it's classic touring car racing. Meanwhile, McCain looks to make it 3 wide. He can't quite do it. Sharp right now bottling everybody up here, but Smith around the outside. And as they make the way out the hill for the next bend, it's going to be Smith on the inside, and he can really force this move. McCain's also there, and he's trying to get involved, trying to help his teammate out, and also gain a place for himself. But meanwhile, as they make the way up the hill, we've got to look to our leaders, ladies and gentlemen, because it's the battle for the lead, and it's only 3.5 tenths right now. As the checkered flag gets ready to wave, and it's going to wave in the name of SRL's Dan Mould as he will drag Jamie Dory to line, and Dan Mould is your winner for our first race of the day overall as he takes the checkered flag ahead of Jamie Dory. P3 is your prime winner. Russell Fowler for Onsley Esports and a phenomenal drive, and Benjamin McCluskey your second place prime driver P4, Gavan Garner P5, Ian Manners will round off the prime podium at P6, and it was Smith ahead of McCain, ahead of Sharp in the end, with Matthew Addy and Alex Meredith round off to best rest P11 ahead of Lee Horn P12. We've also still got some more drivers coming to the line, including Lucas Colt P24 as he finishes just ahead of Daniel Lewis, Reese White and Matthew Sheraton. Albeit Sheraton right now with pressure from Giorgio Belay as he heads to the line, and it will be P27 for the Aztec Racing driver in what has definitely been a difficult first race of the day. Ian Wilder's coming through to take P29 the end for CF Sim Racing with Mally Motors, and then we will have a further 9 seconds down the road. Nick Clemens here for iRacing Esports rounded off the top 30 ahead of Michael Lees, who makes his way into the pit lane. I believe that will actually send him to the back of the lead lap field with Shane Piggott coming on through P31. So it'll be Mark Kemp P32, Michael Lees P33, Andrew Holmes P34, and Philip Garside with the unfortunate early retirement P35. An absolute thriller of a race, and well, we got to see Dan Mould battle back and forth with Jamie Dory, but in the end he let the lead go for a brief while and knew that the race was going to come to him, and in the end making the return move into turns 1, 2 and 3. Dan Mould taking the lead and never looking back in the number 80, and well, definitely he'll be on pole for our next race today, but also carrying 56 kilograms of success bars, and we'll have to wait and see if he can recreate that. And Russell Fowler absolutely untouchable after some early pressure from debutant Benjamin McCluskey. It looks like the Ponsling Esports driver was just in a world of his own at the front of the field, and with the Audi RS3 driver also taking his first overall podium of the season along with his first class win. A fantastic drive there from Mr. Silver, as he's known to his Ponsling Esports teammates, in reference I think to his age, been a bit older than his teammates, but still a phenomenal drive from him today in this first race. And further back, well, the battle in the end between what was Sam Smith, Alan McCain, Kieran Sharp, Matthew Addy and Alex Meredith was absolutely phenomenal. And in fact, I think we need to take a look back at that battle, ladies and gentlemen, because it was a drag race to the line. And well, here is our replay. And it all started, we had to leave them just after this point at turn 13. And you'll notice that Sharp and Smith not wanting to give up versus one another as they made the way up the hill in towards the next bend. And as they came on through left-hander, with the fact that Smith was in the inside, the door was open for McCain, who got quite forceful there in order to try and get himself alongside, give Smith some breathing room and give himself an opportunity. But this is where things get tense, because they come out of Panasonic corner. Sharp's got the inside line. You can see that he knows what McCain's trying to do. McCain's trying to get in the toe of Smith, so Sharp elbows him out there slightly in order to make sure he doesn't get the toe, and then it's a drag race. But of course, with the Elantra in straight line speed and the Honda not quite there, Sharp and him not being able to do it. But look at Addy on the left of your pitch, and if he had an extra 150 metres, I think Addy would have been able to jump Sharp. In the end, he had to wait, and then Alex Meredith just watching on behind, and that's how their race finished, ladies and gentlemen. But a phenomenal battle between them, it must be said. Great respectful racing, and well, with that, we return to your live pictures, and it's time for us to show you those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. As we can see, after our first 11 laps of racing here today at the Fuji International Speedway in round 4 of the NXTCC Season 4, sponsored by Higgins Automotive, SRL's Dan Mould taking the overall win there by 3.5 tenths over Jamie Dory. The Next Gen Racing Pink driver will not be too ashamed of second place. He'll know that's some good points on the board and turning things around after Road America, and that's what he wanted most in his first race of the day. Indeed, over the course of today, he's looking to try and turn things around. And then Russell Fowler round off the overall podium, and also for Ponsling Esports, our pro and winner by 1.4 seconds over Benjamin McCluskey. For the debutant of Benjamin McCluskey, a 4th place overall is no mean feat, and a 2nd place in class as well for the Next Gen Racing driver. 2 tenths clear of Gavan for Next Gen Racing Pink, who as much as he huffed and he puffed, he couldn't find his way past Benjamin McCluskey, and definitely right now, we're grateful that Audi R3 has netted him another overall top 5. Ian Manners P6 there for JW Motorsport, and a sublime performance, and rounding off the prime podium of Fallon, McCluskey and Manners, ahead of the iRacing Esports pair of Smith and McCain, with Sam Smith just out-edging his teammate there and helping his teammate get ahead of Kieran Sharp, with Kieran Sharp fishing P9 there for the Sim Racing Collective, and Matthew Addy round off the top 10 for Sam Casey for Next Gen. P11 best the rest in the field, Alex Meredith for Chemical E Motorsport, a further 10th behind, with then 2.5 seconds to Lee Horn for Sam Casey for Next Gen, who enjoyed a absolutely brilliant battle with Stephen Daly and Isaac Doble, who finished behind him in that order. And then Adam Dillon at P15 there for Mark Sykes Designs, having a difficult start to today and looking forward to the next race today, there's no doubt about it. To round off the top 20, we did have Joseph Doble there, P16 there for Doble Sim Racing, really trying to offset the extra weight in the car from the success bars, and holding off Luke Jones to line for JW Motorsport, with then the Sim Racing Collective John Heens Jr. doing very well to recover to P18, given the open lap instant, and then Mark Sykes P19 ahead of Mikey Doble, who despite the success bars in the car still hit the top 20, albeit it will not be any points scored, but it will put him close to an opportunity to score points in the second race of the day. P21 for Daniel Fritz, ahead of Ben Altria, with Paul Scott, Lucas Kolch and Daniel Lewis completing at your top 25. And then Reswat P26, as bad luck continues to hit Reswat. I think he might have inherited Matthew Addy's bad luck in the Prime class, it must be said, with Matthew Sheraton at P27. And for the Aztec Racing driver as well, he'll know that result does not represent what pace he brought to the first race today. Unfortunate to be caught up in that open lap instant. P28, Giorgio Blight ahead of Ian Wild, with Nick Clemens at P30 there, and then Shane Pick at P31 for Ace of Spades Racing in a difficult midpoint of his race with the contact picked up and the return to the pits due to the damage accrued. And then at Mark Kent P32, just ahead of Michael Lees, with our two retirees being Andrew Holmes and Philip Garside. And with Holmes 7 laps down and Philip Garside 8 laps down, they'll both be classified as non-finishers. They did not complete over half the race distance, and will they be starting P34, P35 and our second race of the day. Speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, that was just race number 1, and we'll be back in approximately 10 minutes time for the build up to race number 2, and there'll be another 11 lap race kicking off here in Japan, and it's been a thriller in our first race of the day. And could we see some primes on the overall podium once again, and could we see Dan Mould make it 2 wins out of 2? Well, all that and more coming up shortly. We'll see you soon. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for our second race of the day in round 4 of the NXTCC Season 4. And my goodness, what a thrilling first race of the day we have had. We've got to see battles of plenty up and down the field, whether it was the fight for the win between Dan Mould or Jamie Dory, which went the way of Mould in the end. Alternatively, what was battles of just being inside the top 10. And well, we got to see plenty of that, and Matthew Addy managed to creep his way into the top 10. And well, we can see John Meredith there in the YouTube chat saying, was there a bit of a strategic P11 from Alex Meredith in order to make sure he didn't take some success ballast into the second race of the day? Where so quite a smart move there, we must say. But all in all, what a thriller, and we only had the one major instance already account of on the opening lap, and it goes so the Fuji International Speedway, highly decorated in the world of Japanese motorsport, and definitely decorated here on our visit in the NXTCC for this season. But now race number 2 is coming about, and it's only 2.5 minutes away. And as our drivers make the way around, I do see there a message from Mark Kent in the YouTube chat to say that he's having to pull out for the rest of the evening due to struggles with asthma in the first race today, not risking it. And well, Mark, that is completely understandable, and we do hope you're feeling better soon and your asthma is able to stabilise or calm down to a degree. But I'm sure I can echo the thoughts of many in the paddock and also in the chat that we're all sending our best wishes for you, and we hope you're able to take it easy, and we can see you on the grid in round number 5 2 weeks time from now. But with what is a challenging battle for many around here on this Fuji circuit, we can see many of you enjoying the racing in the chat. And well, let's not forget the fact we've got so many of you tuning in today, including Mark Draper in the YouTube chat, who says, good job at Mr. Mould for not just his qualifying performance, I suspect, but also was his win in the first race today. Also, we do have there Sideways Games, who's cheering on Full Tilt V Motorsport, albeit with the withdrawal of Mark Kent now. They'll still have Ben Trier on the grid, and you'll definitely be looking forward to seeing more of him in our second race today. We also do say hello in the Facebook chat there to Elwyn Sykes, who says good luck boys, and always happy to have you tuning in, Elwyn. We also say hello there to Spinks 1985, who's saying with regards to Dan Mould, saying go nail it Mouldy. And also we do see there Mark Draper commenting about the fact that Toe should keep all the drives together in the race, and that we definitely got to see that. And we also saw John O'Cook there cheering on Russell Fowler and fellow teammate of Force Link Esports, and also Mr. BF John there saying that Dan have got the lead back. And well, good to see so many of you tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. And well, can see there Mark Kent said looking forward to Montreal with big smiley face, and well, absolutely glad to see you smiling there, Mark. And well, as our drivers make the way on around right now, we are only 30 seconds away from going green flag racing at once again, a release to the grid we should say. And well, could we expect some surprises in our second race? And perhaps the biggest noticeable difference of the all today, no one car the strongest around a single lap. We saw the Elantra go very strong early on, but that tyre degradation really hurted it later in the race. We saw the Hondas doing well in the corners, but struggling on the straights. We saw the Audis conversely doing very well on the straights, but really not liking that final sector. And the Veloster doing a little bit of everything right, but also not being a standout in any particular regard. So with that all, it's a level playing field, and really comes down to our drivers and also any success balance they carry to really mix things up. And right now, we are only moments away from going to the grid once again. It's time for race number 2. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid for the second time today, they line up as follows. It's Dan Mould who takes pole position ahead of Jamie Dory on the front row of the grid. Behind them, the prime pair of Russell Fowler and Benjamin McCluskey, with Fowler making it 2 prime poles out of 2. And then Gavan and Ian Manners line up on row number 3. Sam Smith and Alan McCain start P7 P8, with the top 10 rounded out by Kieran Sharp and Matthew Addy. And then behind them on what will be row at number 6, we have Alex Meredith and Lee Horn, who start P11 P12. Then on row number 7, it's Stephen Daly and Isaac Doble, followed up by Adam Delman and Joseph Doble, with Luke Jones and John Higgins Jr. on row number 9, and the top 20 being completed by Mark Sykes and Mikey Doble. Watch out for Mikey Doble, he'll be coming through the field with no weight to the car this time around. Daniel Fritz and Ben Altria start on your 11th row, P21, P22, with Paul Scott and Lucas Colch on the 12th row of the grid. And on row at number 13, it will be the combination of Daniel Lewis and Reese Watt, with Matthew Sheraton and Giorgio Belay starting on the 14th row. And then on what will be the 15th row to complete the top 30, Ian Wood and Nick Clemens. But that's the grid set, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our second race today as Doble looks to try and make it 2 great starts out of 2. But Jamie Dory this time coming on a little bit stronger by comparison as they make the way down towards the braking zone. Onto the brakes they go, and well, it's going to be also Russell Fowler looking around the outside. Everyone side by side under braking now as they cover the right hand, and Mould loses it under braking and rotation. And that's going to release Dory to lead this race with McCluskey coming through. Fowler has to go deep in response, and Fowler knocked down the order. Gavan got up into P3, and Manner's already trying to take a look here for 3rd place overall as they make their way to the braking zone. Car running wide in the back of your picture. That's Andrew Holmes, who's found his way back on safely now. But as they make their way down through turns 3 into 4, 5, we can see there an absolute scattergram of cars now as they charge their way through the long right-hander and up the hill towards turn number 6 they go. But the key point being we had a shake-up immediately here. Matthew Addy going on the offensive versus McCain. McCain going sideways, and Addy trying to back out in order to avoid any further contact and avoid a repeat of lap 1 on race number 1. And they all safely make their way through turn number 6 this time around. Multiple freeways at the rear of the picture, but as the drivers make their way down towards turn number 10. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Dory under pressure. McCluskey, meanwhile, defending absolutely stubbornly here from Gavan Garner as they make their way through the Dunlop hairpin chicane. And as they head up the hill, this time got cars going a bit deeper. That's also, I believe, Fowler being turned around in the rear of the picture as he's releasing more places. Addy now side by side with what is Alex Meredith, who's got Adam Delman on his inside. And Delman's going to try and take both of the prime drivers here as they head up through nets on the outside. Well, this is going to be very bold from Delman if he's going to get it done, but my gut feeling says he may not be able to here as they come through the left and up the hill with the right hander they go. And as they come through the right hander now, Delman here having to fight on with Alex Meredith, eager to make haste but being kept behind as they make their way on towards lap number 2. But as they charge their way towards the timeline, we'll give you a quick refresh of the overlay given the fact we lost our circuit map once again, and it does decide to reappear, but they head on down, and this is how they stand after 1 lap of racing. It's Jamie Dory who leads ahead of Benjamin McCluskey, followed by Gavan Garner P3, Sam Smith P4, Dan Moll P5, Ian Manners P6, Kieran Sharp P7 ahead of Lee Horn P8, Alan McCain P9 and Adam Delman completion top 10. Matthew Addy P11, a little bit battling with Alex Meredith, and we'll free wide here as Delman defends on the inside, Meredith in the middle, and it's going to be Addy on the outside as they head onto the brakes, and behind them we also do have a bit of a battle here between Russell Fowler and Isaac Doble. Fowler fending off Isaac Doble as they come out of the opening hairpin, but also more battles further on down with Nick Clements trying to look for his way around the outside of Lucas Colch up towards turn 3. That will be the inside for the left-hander. Can he get it done? With Sheraton and Paul Scott also going toe-to-toe into the braking zone. Well, 2 by 2 they go, but will they emerge 2 by 2 as Colch there bounces in the trench in the exit curve, and as they make their way down for the long right-hander up towards turn number 6 they go. Well, right now side by side it's going to be 3 wide on corner exit. My goodness, surely not. Clements is going to use all the runoff area there that he dares to dream to do so. Meanwhile, we can see there Sheraton has to back out with a connectivity issue, and meanwhile Paul Scott looks to the outside. And as they come through, Clemens gets it done to fend them off. A beautiful defence there from the iRacing Esports driver, and that was absolutely on the limit. He doesn't want to lose any more ground as they make their way down. You can see there Shane Piggott also getting close to the rear of the picture. We also got John, I believe that is Andrew Holmes, trying to look for a move as well. And Andrew Holmes, the pro driver here, finds himself right at the back of all these primes and wants to make progress. But as they come up through turn 12 into 13, no change right now for Holmes, and he's still got Piggott behind him as well. But meanwhile, looking from them to a bit further up the order, we can see meanwhile that Russell Fowler, well right now he's in amongst the whole pack and a mix and medley of pros and primes here, as meanwhile Matthew Addy trying to keep Josie Doble at bay. Contact between Fowler and John Higgins Jr. behind. They're all stacking up behind one another here, all getting themselves set up for the straight, and as they charge their way down towards turn 1 for the 2nd time now, well, that'll be the 3rd time once they cross that timeline. Meanwhile at the front of the field we've got to change a leader. It's Benjamin McCluskey who goes on the inside here to take the lead off of Jamie Dory. Side by side they go to the braking zone here, and with McCluskey trying to take the Pro-Am lead into the overall lead, and we've added his name to the limited number of names that have taken overall wins. Albeit he's trying to do it in race number 2, and Dory immediately coming back as they make the way on through and heading up towards turn 3. Dory looking around the outside here. Side by side they go into the braking zone, and McCluskey's coming a long way in terms of defending, and he gets it done there. Meanwhile Sam Smith behind getting involved. Contact with Gavan Garner. Garner goes sideways, and Smith in the end has to try and release the car. He does indeed, but Garner is sent to the runoff area there, but that could have been curtains for the pair of them. But Smith in the end just having to try and lift off the throttle and let the Audi go sideways. Garner will not be too pleased with that, but he'll be grateful for the fact it hasn't ended in a catastrophe. But either way right now, the Next Gen Racing pink Audi has been knocked down the order as they make the way through 300R. Now as they head up towards what will be the Dunlop hairpin. Meanwhile Mikey Doble looking for another move here, trying to pick on Alex Meredith for P11 as they come down through turn number 9 on the inside. Meredith gives him the space. And I think Meredith here trying to play the smart game, which is don't fight, it's not worth it, take the prime points instead. And he leaves the door wide open there, and Doble says, thank you, don't mind if I do. But as they come through turn 11 into 12, up through the right hander they go. And these drivers right now doing everything right. Meanwhile, third behind, Matthew Sheraton battling side by side with Lucas Kolch, who is still running side by side with Sheraton, going up towards turn number 13. That's going to be on the inside Andrew Holmes as they make their way through the right hander, and Holmes trying to make a bit more ground here, albeit Kolch is going to come back side by side. They go up the hill into next bend, and as they do, Holmes really having to dig in here. The prime's not giving him any which way through, and well, we love to see the battling here, but I think Holmes will be hoping he could get a little bit more progress. But as they come through turn number 16, side by side they go, and as they do, Kolch this time will lose out the outer under speed, but it's contact between the two. Andrew Holmes is turned the wrong way, and as he rejoins, he tries to stop the car from serpentine onto the road. He does so very well, and it's a disastrous moment for Andrew Holmes, and a frustrating one at that, as he heads on down the start for the straight 9. He's lost a lot of ground he gained early on, but meanwhile, as he falls to the back of the field, Stephen Daly here battling side by side with Joseph Doble. Doble on the right of your picture, it's going to be Dale on the left of your picture. Behind him is Isaac Doble, if you're wondering why you see two of the Power Max car store liveries. And as they make their way out of turn 1 down towards turn 2, the two Doble Sim Racing drivers here being outrun by the Team 4XR Honda as they head up towards the braking zone, albeit the KC Motorsport machinery here doing everything right. But then again, Joseph Doble says, no you don't, and Daly says, yes I do. He tries to cut it back, but as he does so, it's going to be Joseph Doble on the inside here defending. Look at Isaac trying to cut his way on the inside here as they make their way around. The two brothers trying to work together in order to get ahead of the number 64, and as they head in towards turn number 6, well now I think it's going to be Isaac who's got to look around the outside, but I don't think he's got enough leverage here as they all go line the stern out the corner, albeit I say that, and in fact Isaac Doble here, he's going to try and sneak it around the outside of 300R as they make their way down towards the hairpin. Side by side they go, and if you're wondering why you see Double Doble, it's not your eyes that are deceiving you, it's on screen as Isaac Doble looks to try and go around the outside, but Daly says one's enough, I'm not letting both of you through, and Isaac Doble is made to wait as they come through turns 10, 11 and 12, but looking a bit closer towards the caravan. Meanwhile, it's going to be side by side between McCain and what is Delmont here as they make their way up the hill in towards turn number 15 into nets. They're caught up by Gavan Garner, and McCain absolutely stubborn as a mule for the simple reason he's battling for P4 Pro Am and P9 overall stroke P10, and as they come through, Garner goes a bit deep, but that's to pick up speed out the corner, but he's gone too deep, and this is going to cause a free wide of corner exit. Garner goes extremely wide there, has to rejoin. They power their way down the way towards turn number 1, and as they head on through, Mark J. asking, is this race 3? No, you get ahead of yourself there, Mark. It's race number 2. They are not giving in here, and race number 3 is going to be a thriller at this rate. But as they make their way down towards turn number 1, and right now it's going to be almost 4 wider as McKay tucks it by Gardner, and meanwhile Mikey Doble tucks in there and looks at the slipstream. It's 3 wide with Gardner at the front, and as they head into the braking zone, Doble backs out. Now Delmont on the inside versus McCain as they come through the right hander and onwards towards turn number 3, and meanwhile Doble trying to sneak his way, has to take the rallycross line. They're 2 wheels on the white line. I think that's pushing track limits, but then again you've got to be in it to win it, and as they head in towards turn number 3 right now, they're all 3 wide into turn 3, then they return to 2 wide, and as they head on down in towards the double right at turns 4 and 5, this is not over as Delmont side by side with Doble as they come on through behind Alex Meredith, watching this and thinking this is surely going to end in tears. I don't want to get too involved, and as they come into the braking zone, Delmont now back on the inside of Mikey Doble. Meanwhile Meredith getting very close for comfort as they come out of the corner, and as they do, we ride on board here Alex Meredith, who's thinking about trying to get involved, and he's going to be playing a very risky game here. These pro drivers right now like fireworks that have been set and are waiting to blow as they head into the braking zone. You can see Doble there defending hard versus Delmont as they come on through, and Meredith just simply watching. Understandably, he wants to make progress here. He doesn't want to get caught up in the fact this battle could push him backwards towards Joseph Doble and Stephen Daly, who are only 1.5 to 2.5 seconds behind respectively. And as they come out to turn number 13, through 14 and 15 they go up there and into the braking zone. They all go line to stern for a moment, but I think this might be the calm before the proverbial storm, because right now I don't think they're all done yet, and we're only halfway through this race. As they head up the hill, you see Delmont there defending hard on the inside here versus Meredith. I think now between a rock and a hard place with the Elantra driver thinking about what he can do in order to gain 1 or 2 places. Now keep in mind that it's a top 13 minimum reverse grid, so Alex Meredith right now will guarantee he's in that reverse grid order. Ideally he would like to get a couple more places to get some further overall points and also go hunting after McCain, but if he finishes P12 and he hasn't got any primes behind him, this could bode well for Meredith going into the final race as well. So he's got to think it on both the tactical and the strategic side here as they make their way down the start finish straight in towards turn 1 once again. And as they do, it's going to be a Doble defending versus Delmont once more. And well, this time, Doble makes it look a lot easier compared to the last time around. But from then, we look back to Matthew Addy versus Reese. What, two rivals of old, particularly in Season 2 of the NXTCC. You would not see one without the other in the field as they make the way in towards turn number 3. Well, Addy on the inside in the same cases with NXTGEN. And we'll go through the left hand. He's holding on versus the JW Motorsport Audi RS3. Mark Sykes also there in the Mark Sykes Designs machine just behind. Figured out how he can get involved in this fight as they wind their way off of turn number 5, and as they come on the hill, we've had battles up further up the order. We will take a look at those very shortly, we promise you, ladies and gentlemen. But here it's going to be Addy on the outside, as we had a lock up there, I think, for Stephen Daly getting it very wrong. And as they come out of the corner, well, I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but it's going to be absolute pandemonium as they come through turn number 8. In fact, it's going to be 3 wide there with what is, I believe that is none other than Fowler at the front of the field, and then you will have what is Watt battling on, and Addy in fact loses that massive contact to the back of Sykes' car, coming on through that middle Trier, just sending it from a mile back versus Nick Clemens, and then has to give way, but Clemens saw it coming and opened the door to the full tilt B Motorsport driver, saying I'm going all in. I believe Stephen Daly having to be towed to the pitch due to damage picked up in all of that battling, but my goodness, there's about 4 or 5 different overtakes there in the space of 3 corners, and we'll have to try and get a look back at that very shortly exactly what happened there, because that was absolutely sensational. And it's not over yet. It's all Trier now as Jones trying to go around the outside of him. Also on the inside there are Clemens trying to force the door open as they come on through turn at number 16. Whilst this is playing out, ladies and gentlemen, there are battles further up the field, and in particular this battle for P3 right now between Dan Mould and Ian Manners, keeping in mind Manners the prime driver, P2 prime right now behind McCluskey, who's the race leader, and well, right now it is going to be Manners who is trying to fight for an overall podium here as they come out of turn 1 and down towards 2. And charge it up towards 3 they go. Well, right now Mould finding them with that extra weight in the car, that 56.1 kilograms, he's definitely not able to pull away from anyone. He has to fight every corner if he wants to hold on to the position. The success ballast doing exactly what's expected of it, and a lot of drivers have commented thus far this season when they've had it, they have felt it. Even if it's just the 4.7 kilograms of P10, it is a nightmare to deal with, and as they make the way through turn number 6 right now, well, Mould definitely feeling the extra weight in that car, and knowing he's still got quite a few laps to go. But as they head up towards turn number 10, meanwhile we'll look back here to Delwood versus McCain, and well, the Mark Sykes Designs driver trying to get away from Doble. He has found his way back, and then Mikey Doble hit to turn 1 to start this lap from what I gather in my right earpiece. But as they head into the braking zone, Delwood right now doing everything he can to try and get the place of McCain, including a bit of a shunt there on the doors, and as they make the way through, Doble now says, well, I could do it too, and McCain being bruised and battered around here as they head through turn number 13. He looks for a cutback on Doble, but he's never going to find that on the run through turn 30 as that tie over the apex curve. And meanwhile now Alex Meredith has got behind him Joseph Doble as Meredith continues to watch this battle on, but knowing that he doesn't really want to let Joseph Doble get involved here, because he's also got an opportunity to try and swipe away P4 in what is the prime class versus McCain as they go on to lap number 8 very shortly. But as they head on down towards turn number 1, well, meanwhile it will be a bit further back, a little bit of a battle here between, I believe, Daniel Lewis and Andrew Holmes. In fact, Lewis going wide there was the corner, I believe, into turn at number 15, next bend, and Neville losing places. Shane Piggott now trying to follow through after him, and well, Piggott will be in the tow there. I think it will be the Audi that's going to outrun its rival, but looking from there back to the front in the run down towards turn number 1. Meredith here on the inside versus McCain, goes in very hot, but Meredith there being boxed in, sends Doble wide with contact. That's Mikey Doble, and meanwhile Joseph Doble now comes to the aid of his brother and says, don't pick up my brother, I'm going to try and make the move on you in return. And as they make the way up towards turn number 3, which is going to be Joseph Doble versus McCain side by side. McCain there gets his elbows out, but Joseph Doble gives as good as he's being given, and as they come on through the double right-hander here, the Doble Sim Racing 11 fights hard and comes on through, and as they head up the hill towards turn number 6, well, now McCain will find himself on the inside. It's switched back in terms of side-by-side racing. Doble now goes to the cutback out of their hair, but gets himself to the inside of 7, puts himself on the outside of 8, 9 and 10. The problem is that Alantra's got more speed off the exit, and as they head on down, well, now McCain's going to try and force Doble as wide as possible here to compromise his line, but Doble's going to push back here and say, no, I deserve the space. Onto the brakes they go. He thinks about cutting it back, but McCain in the end is simply there. A fantastic battle in between them, and in the end Alex Meredith, for all of it, has gained P10 by simply being calm and seizing the opportunity to take 2 places at turn number 1. But as they make the way out towards that, I don't think it's all done yet. And meanwhile, looking at the very front of the field, We can see here the NXTGEN Racing car, Benjamin McCluskey, still with the pressure. NXTGEN Racing picks Jamie Dory behind as they make the way over the final corner. But as they accelerate, this is where you can see that success balance starts coming into effect for Willis Dory versus McCluskey, in the fact that McCluskey's running some weight to the car as well, but Dory's running more weight by comparison. And that Elantra that should close up quite rapidly, it's only now started to gain what is there effectively just over half the start for this straight. And will Dory could potentially look at sending the move here. I think he's going to wait in return as they head into the braking zone. He's going to look around the outside instead, but McCluskey will defend this as they come on through, and as they do, Mould versus Manners here. Well, Manners right now trying to go all the way around the outside, but Mould keeping them honest as they come down through turn number 2. You can see Sharp and Sam Smith also rating on the wings now, and I think Manners at this point may be conscious of the fact he's being pushed backwards rather than enable himself to get forwards. They head up towards turn number 3 and through the left hand, and then you've got the pack of Gavan, Lee Horn and Adam Delmont not too far behind as well as they all make the way through turns 4 and 5 and up towards 6. But as they do, we're hearing there's been an instant for Luke Jones at the start of this lap, so it's gone very, very wrong with the JW Motorsport driver, and we'll try and get an understanding of what happened there very shortly. But meanwhile, looking at this battle for P3, it's the long train of cars, 4 cars here, all vying for the overall podium spot, and Manners right now under pressure from Kieran Sharp as they come down through 9 and up towards 10. On the brakes, the JW Motorsport driver goes. He's going to go very late on the brakes here, a bit too late in his contact with Mould. It's going to push the SRL car wide, and well, I think Manners missed his braking point, and in return this is going to cause the taps to flow here as Kieran Sharp's on the inside. It's 3 wide into turn 13. Mould's right in the middle. Surely not. And as they come through the corner, up through nets they go. They're almost 3 wide for another brief run, but Manners backs off and gives the space back to Dan Mould, knowing that he did push the pass, and will respectful race there from Manners. But the damage has been done for Mould, but he's lost P3, and Kieran Sharp finds his way through. Sam Smith also now gets his elbows out and comes to the right hander in turn number 16 into P4, and the iRacing Sports driver here trying to make it onto the overall podium for the first time this season. It's been a long time since we've seen Smith on the podium, and right now he's only 1 place away from doing so as they make their way onto the penultimate lap in this second race of the day. Behind, Gavan Gardner has caught up, Adam Delman has caught up, Lee Horn is almost there as well. They're all together here as they make their way down towards turn 1. Gardner's looking around the outside of what is their Manners heading to the braking zone. Mould's going to defend on the inside versus Smith. In fact, he's going to defend and attack at the same time. And the 2 are possible, they're not mutually exclusive as they come down through the right-hander at 2 and up towards 3. It's going to be Mould on the left of your picture, Smith on the right of your picture. Smith arguably is the favourite with that inside line, but don't count Mould out. He will try and force this or cut it back. Well, in the end, he's not able to quite achieve it either, with Smith carrying a bit too much speed and running wide, but he'll get away with that once or twice. And as they come through turns 4 and 5, they're all nose to tail roll through, but Smith goes a bit deep, and Mould there doesn't worry about getting the elbows out to get the move done. Smith tucks in behind, but meanwhile, look at Manners going in versus Gardner. And will be a compromise exit there for Manners, and Gardner should just be able to power his way on through. Adam Delman, however, trying to make it 3 ways. We see a flash of lights there from Smith. He's not happy about the way the move was made with the contact, but as they come down towards turn number 10, which is going to be Delman versus Manners. Manners on the inside there under braking. Also Gardner on the inside of Smith. They're all getting very, very hasty right now. As off the road goes Lee Horn in the rear of your picture. He's got completely straight on. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but he's going to take the escape chicane in terms of the way he has to navigate his way back onto the circuit. That's going to drop Horn down to P13, the last of what is the positions that are guaranteed to be in that reverse grid draw. And meanwhile, as we see Delman battling here, he's now got Mikey Doble behind him, and as they come through next bend. But whilst all this is playing out, meanwhile, further down the road, we've also got Nick Clemens here, chasing after Matthew Addy and Reece Watts. They're trying to battle for what is effective positions inside this top 23. They all want a chance to win with that reverse grid pole, at least be right up there. And of course, the lower down the order you are towards P23, the lower the likelihood you're going to be there, unless the number 23 does come out of the lottery bowl. But the point being right now, everybody eager to make progress. And you can see Matthew Sheraton versus Paul Scott a bit further back there as they make their way down the start of the straight with Michael Lee's pulling the pair of them along. It's the battle of the Audi versus the Elantra, and I think Paul Scott is going to out-drag the Aztec Race in Elantra, albeit I think Michael Lee's with the damage he's got on the car. We feel as though this car's got a happy place. But as they all head down towards turn 1, meanwhile it's still 2 wide as they exit the corner in that battle for P9 between Ian Manners and Joseph Doble. In fact, that's for P8, we should say, between Manners and Mikey Doble, as Manners out on the inside here on the braking into turn 3. He's not giving in. He's not becoming phased by the fact he's battling with the pros here. He's enjoying it. And as they come down through turns 4 and 5, side by side, they go for the long right-hander. And will Manners in the end just having to tuck in behind and not able to find his way on through. But heading up towards turn number 6 here. Well, Manners going all in again. It's a very late move under braking, but he's got the brakes on to do it said, that's the one thing the Honda can always do, is it can send from quite far back compared to its peers. But as they come down towards turn number 10, meanwhile at the front of the field, Jamie Dory has found his way back past where's Benjamin McCluskey. It's been off camera, but those are your two leaders, 4 attempts between the two of them as they wind their way up the hill for the final time in this race. And will Dory right now looking comfortable, as meanwhile it looks like everybody lying astern for a moment whilst they make the way up the hill, and I wonder whether we will see any last minute moves into the final quarter, given the fact that Panasonic corner is definitely one of those quarters where you can go all in on the final lap and throw your chips and let them land where they may. Well, as our drivers make the way on through right now, you can see that I think Delwood trying to set himself up for that potential move. Can't quite find it, not close enough. I think everybody a bit too far back here, but meanwhile making his way up towards the timeline, it's going to be Next Gen Racing brings Jamie Dory, the number one on the car, represents one thing, and that is a winner. And right now he is your winner in this second race of the day by half a second over Benjamin McCluskey, who's your prime winner P2. Kieran Sharp rounds off the overall podium, P3 for the Sim Racing Collector, Dan Mulder, Gavan Gardner, and it'll be Sam Smith P6 ahead of Adam Delmon, and then Mikey Doble P8 ahead of Ian Mads P9 second place prime, Joseph Doble P10, John English Jr. P11 best arrested, and a great recovery drive for P18 at the start. Alex Meredith rounds up the prime podium, P12 there for Capital E Motorsport, and a very considerate and smart drive ahead of Lee Horn, who rounds off the top 13 and guarantees himself to be in that reverse grid ahead of Alan McCain P14 and Isaac Doble P15. But meanwhile further down the order, well, the last place in terms of that top 23 will be Matthew Cheverton, who just held off Ben Altria to the line. The Aztec Racing driver now will be hoping the number 23 is sure to put himself on pole. And in terms of finishers, everybody's already finished the race, ladies and gentlemen. They've all come through. That's how close it has been, with only 40 seconds separating the winner from the last finisher on the lead lap. And as all our drivers make the way round on their cool-down laps, my goodness, what a race in the end. And indeed, as you say there, Mark Draper in the YouTube chat, getting a bit sendy towards the end, but still, we absolutely love it in touring car racing class action, and it's absolutely delivered so far. And will Dan Mould, to be fair, whilst it didn't quite work out in terms of hold on to an overall podium, he did very well to hold on to P4. It's huge points for the SRL driver for the United Kingdom, and I think he will feel as though now he's on course for a major points haul here today if he's able to nail race number 3. But in terms of standout performances, well, definitely, there's no question about it, a standout performance of this man, Benjamin McCluskey for Next Gen Racing, for taking his first Pro-Am win here in what is his debut today. And well, I do wonder whether we'll be wondering if he's going to be moved to the Pro class after today, given his pace. But then again, it would be rude of us not to say that Ian Manners could also feel the same, albeit the JW Motorsport drive with a phenomenal drive to 9th place overall and 2nd place in class, and a hold off the pros for most of the race, albeit falling in the end, and understandably so. But he'll know at the end of the day, he's secured the key points, and that's in the Higgins Automotive Prime Class Championship. But as they all make their way into the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen, one driver who's not had a great second race, Russell Fowler, who feels like he got knocked down the order very early on with that opening couple of lap instance. And the number 61 driver will know it will all come down to race 3 now to try and recreate the phenomenal performance from race number 1. But as they all make their way to the pits, it's time for us to take a look at the race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after our second race today in round 4 of the NXTCC Season 4, sponsored by Higgins Automotive, brought to you here on iRacing, Jamie Dory taking the win there for Next Gen Racing Pink by half a second over Next Gen Racing's Benjamin McCluskey, who was your Pro-Am class winner in P2 overall. And then Kieran Sharp rounded off the overall podium for the Sim Racing Collective, and another very smart drive there for the 23 driver, ahead of SRL's Dan Mould, who just missed out on the overall podium, but still at P4 he won't mind that at all. Gavan Gardner P5 and Next Gen Racing Peak thwarted in trying to take an overall podium, but another overall top 5, 2 P5 so far today, so he can't complain too much, but he'll want a podium. I think he's got an itch one in that Audi RS3. And then Sam Smith P6 for iRacing Esports, fighting hard in to hold off Adam Delman and Mikey Doble, with Ian Manners behind it in P9 and 2nd place in the Pro-Am class for JW Motorsport. And then Joseph Doble completed the top 10 overall there for Doble Sim Racing. John Higgins Jr. P11 best the rest of the Sim Racing Collective, head of Alex Meredith, who makes it a third place in class, and a great drive there for the Kiwi Tour e-motorsport drive to round off the prime podium of McCluskey, Manners and Meredith, ahead of Lee Horn, who's P13 and full place of the prime class, will mean that the same case for the next gen driver is the last of the drivers who will definitely be on that reverse grid. If it's P13 all the way through to P23, regardless, he will be included in it. And then P14, Alan McCain for iRacing Esports, batting there ahead of Isaac Doble, with Russell Fowler P16, the Performance Link Esports driver, having a difficult second race, but still showing great pace. And then Mark Sykes and Reese Watt P17, P18, with the top 20 being completed by Nick Clemens and Matthew Addy, and the two of them battling all the way to the end. But it was Clemens who found the upper hand ahead of Matthew Addy. Well, the same case for Next Gen Drive completed the top 20 ahead of P21 Michael Lees, and then Paul Scott and Matthew Cheverton. Matthew Cheverton being our final eligible driver for the reverse grid draw, P23 there for Aztec Racing. Ben Altria, P24 there for Full Tilt V Motorsport, having some great battles all the way through the race. It was Stone Cold Digital HHR's Lucas Koch P25, and then Andrew Holmes, Daniel Fritz, Daniel Lewis, Ian Ward and Shane Piggott completing your top 30. And it was our top 30 who finished on the lead lap, with Giorgio Bly finishing a lap down for Stone Cold Digital HHR, 2 laps down for Luke Jones for JW Motorsport, and then our final finisher, albeit will classified as a non-finisher as he didn't complete over half the race distance, Team Forex by KC Motorsports, Stephen Daly, with that unfortunate mid-race retirement. And that was our second race, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got one more race to go, our sprint race number 3, which will be coming up in approximately 15 minutes time. But before we get to our break and getting ready to go into race number 3, there's just one small question, and that is of the reverse grid draw. Without further ado, we cut to the commentary booth, and good evening to you. I hope you're enjoying the racing so far, and well, if you've been enjoying it, you've got a cracking at race 3 ahead, but we're going to do the reverse grid draw, and as always, to take you through it, here's the Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl, as provided by Sam Cases UK, and very shortly, I'm going to be shuffling the balls 6 through to 12, which are in the bowl at the moment, and once I've done the shuffle, I'll be drawing them one after the other. I'll be drawing 2 balls out of the bowl, we'll add the numbers together, and that'll be our reverse grid position. So without further ado, let's do this. So that's our shuffle, and our first draw is going to be, oh, it's the number 10, which means we've got quite a high grid already. So therefore, now we're looking to see what our second number will be, and we'll do a short shuffle, and now go for the draw. And our second number for today is going to be the number 8. So it will be a top 18 that is inverted. So it will mean that Reese Watt is on pole. And also on top of that, if my recognition is correct, the top 7 of the grid will all be Pro-Am drivers. So it is going to be a thriller into turn number 1. And it means we're going to have practically all of our pros battling their way through from the back of the top 18. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in approximately 7 to 8 minutes time for the build-up to our final race of the day. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to our final race of today. Race number 3 of 3 in round 4 of the NXTCC Season 4. Brought to you from Circuit Side State at the Fuji International Speedway in Japan. And what an absolutely thrilling pair of races we have had so far. There have been sensational performances. There have been absolutely brutal but brilliant battles. And now we've got a third race of the day with a top 18 inverted grid, which is going to see Reese Watt, after the difficulties he's gone through in the first 2 races, take a reverse grid pole and potentially have an opportunity to fight for what could be another overall win to add to his name. Well, as we get set and ready to go, we are only 3 minutes away from going to the grid. And speaking about JW Motorsport, as we do see the sim racing collectors John Higgins Jr. get himself warmed up and making his way on around, we are going to try and catch a quick word with a driver from JW Motorsport and one of the stars of our second race of the day, and that would be none other than Ian Manners, who we do see here making his way on down the start-finish straight. And as we do try to grab a quick word from him as of now, we get a patch through to the car. We do get a patch through to Ian Manners from JW Motorsport. And Ian, if we can just grab a quick minute or 2 of your time, a great race number 1, but a fantastic race number 2 from yourself, battling hard to stay inside the top 10 and with it a 2nd place in the Pro-Am class. You must be absolutely pleased with how tonight's going.
Yes, it's been so far my best round since it started this year. I have to admit I was more than happy with P4, and what might have looked like a send was actually a mistake. I got my braking wrong into the chicane and then hit Dan, so which I apologise for that.
We're still at the same time, very close-knit racing, and with 2 Pro-Am podiums thus far and a 3rd race of the cards, I can imagine the mood in the JW Motorsport garage right now must be absolutely on positive fire, in the fact that you've been doing very well, and now Reese Watt's got an opportunity to start from pole.
Yes, he's had a bit of bad luck so far this round. He's done a couple of good starts from pole before, as long as he remembers to put it into gear.
Well, we do look forward to seeing whether he can do so. And how about yourself? What do you think is going to be the target for the final race today? Make it 3 out of 3 podiums?
Yes, but I think I don't actually know who's in front of me. I'm hoping for good top 10. It's been really good, clean racing around me. Really enjoyed this week because of that. Yeah, hopefully stick where I am and move up a little bit.
Well, Ian, we wish you the best luck, but until then, we'll leave you to it for now and see you at the checkered flag.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Hearing that there from Ian Manners, feeling very positive, and of course that fantastic result with the top 4 overall in the first race of the day, but then that battling race number 2 to finish 2nd on the Pro-Am podium and also P9 overall. Well, the number 52 driver will definitely know he's got it against him in the fact he's got that success ballast of the car, but also hearing the fact that if Reese's teammate is able to have a good launch off the line, he could have a major opportunity in order to turn around what's been a difficult day, and we'll have to wait and see whether this man can pull it off and once again make some magic happen here in the NXTCC. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are only now seconds away from going to the grid. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen, who's going to be the winner overall and in the Pro-Am class in our final race. It's Fuji once again, but this time, of course, it's the final race, and therefore a reverse grid packed full of Pro-Ams, and let's head to it. So as our drivers line up on the grid, this is how they'll start. It's Reese Watt who takes reverse grid pole position for JW Motorsport, joined on the front row by Mark Sykes and Mike Sykes Designs. On the second row, it's Russell Fowler and Isaac Doble, followed up on row number 3 by Alan McCain and Lee Horn, with Alex Meredith bringing to an end the top 7 Pro-Ams coming to E Motorsport, and then your first pro, John Higgins Jr. starts P8. Behind him on the grid, it will then be Jose Doble and Ian Manners who complete the top 10, with Mikey Doble and Adam Delman starting on the 6th row. Row number 7 will go to the pair of Sam Smith and Gavan Gardner, with Dan Mulder and Kieran Sharp on row at number 8. And then row 9 is contested by Benjamin McCluskey and Jamie Dory, with your top 20 being rounded out by Nick Clemens and Matthew Addy. On row number 11, Michael Lees and Paul Scott, with Matthew Sherton and Ben Altria on row number 12. And then we have row 13 going to Lucas Colch and Andrew Holmes, with Daniel Fritz and Daniel Lewis on row number 14, and the battle of the two Daniels into turn 1. The top 30 is completed by Ian Wood and Shane Piggott, with Giorgio Blight and Luke Jones on row number 16. But that's the grid, ladies and gentlemen, been set. It's time for the lights. One red light, two red lights, three red lights, four red lights, five red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our final race of the day. It's a quick launch off the line from our drivers here with a short light sequence. And Reese White immediately followed by Mark Sykes, who has a phenomenal start and looks up the inside into turn number one. Now they make their way down to the brakes here, and you can see behind Russell Fowler also coming in hot, but Sykes goes deep. It's 3 wide at the apex, and it's going to be Russell Fowler who creeps on through. He makes it 3 wide and takes 2 to take the lead. But meanwhile, Isaac Doble trying to go on the offensive now as they head up towards turn number 3. All the prams here know they've got to make the progress and make it quick as Fowler carries around the outside. Meanwhile, Sykes there defends in the middle, and it's going to be Reese White who drops 2 places off the line as they come down through turns 4 and 5. Now charging away through the long right-hander here. Meanwhile, Lee Horn trying to push his way around the outside of Isaac Doble. He's got the momentum there. He's been given the space into the break-ins over the hairpin they go. And as they cover down the anchors this time, meanwhile, John Higgins Jr. still trying to force his way into position here. 90 can go for the oval when he's got the pace to do so, but he's got pro-ams here absolutely plucky and full of grit as they make the way down through turns 8 and 9 and up towards 10, but side by side they charge them down. But Fowler right now trying to break away at the tandem, as meanwhile a bit further back that's Adam Delman and Ian Manners squaring off, and Manners making some great ground at the start of this race as they come through the right into the left-hander, but heading up the hill shortly now. Manners will know that whilst Delman's been kept at bay, in fact Delman's got ahead now. He's got in behind which shows him Doble's Mikey Doble and Dan Mould tucking behind, albeit they're side by side with the battle. McCain also getting in the mixture, and as they head up the hill towards Nets Bend, well right now McCain, he's got Dan Mould right there, and will Mould squeeze on through. You would argue he was squeezed to the apex. McCain would say, well, why is your nose there in the first place? But either way, it's going to be McCain who falls back as they come up into Panasonic corner, and after one lap of racing, well definitely the tempo has kept up to where we left it off here in race number 2, and McCain's turn there across the front of where's Kieran Sharp's going into the barrier, and Alan McCain's race ends disastrously there, as I think he'll now have to try and limp it to the pits. But meanwhile, it's Russell Fowler who leads after one lap of racing, and Mark Sykes P2, Reese Watt P3 ahead of Lee Horn P4, and then it's going to be Isaac Doble P5, Adam Delman battling with Alex Meredith for P6, P7, followed by what is now, I believe, Joseph Doble, 3 wide in fact onto the apex. We'll come back to the recap shortly, as you see Johnny Hughes Jr. trying to go around the outside, can't quite find it, and as they make the way off the corner, Adam Delman takes the 2 places in a single pass and moves up into P6. It's now Alex Meredith P7, Johnny Hughes Jr. P8, Joseph Doble P9, Mikey Doble P10, and then best rest P11 is Ian Manners. And speaking of which, well, Mikey Doble here, just watch it as Johnny Hughes Jr.'s turn across the front. Oh, that what is there? It's Joseph Doble's car, and well, Hughes Jr. rolling backwards down the hill here and just letting the car come to the barrier gradually. But meanwhile, whilst all this is going on, Lee Horn up the inside there, Mark Sykes for P3. The Pro-Ams right now continue to fight for the overall podium and trying to run away with this, but right now Sykes coming back at Horn, and these 2 great friends off the circuit and good rivals on the circuit. But Horn here feels as though he's got the advantage on the inside with the better brakes than the Honda, but that Audi no slouch in terms of being fast off the line. And as they make their way out the corner, Horn will get the job done there for P3, but Delman now battling side by side with Isaac Doble as they come out of the chicane, but he's not giving up yet, as meanwhile we've had a bit of an instant further back, including Lucas Colch there in P20, fighting side by side and turned across the front. Oh, but what is that? I do believe Andrew Pike, as now he's, oh goodness me, Ben Altria trying to find a way on through and then going into the side of the Skunk Cold Digital HHR Honda, and Altria there with significant damage to the car. That could be a tow to the pits for Lucas Colch. We'll have to wait and see, and Altria may have to take that car to the pits as it is limping right now up the hill into Nets. But as they come through turn at number 15 and on towards 16, it's definitely been a dramatic start for a good number of drivers here, and we'll get some replays of what exactly happened in some of those battles shortly. As our drivers wind the way on through, well, meanwhile looking from outside the top 20 to back inside the top 20, in particular to Adam Delman here. He's got Mark Sykes behind him as Delman has found his way on through, coming out the final corner. You can see they're flashing lights from what is Joseph Doble trying to distract, as meanwhile Alex Meredith goes in hot under braking versus Sykes, makes it 2 wide on the apex, and also there it's going to be Delman versus Isaac Doble if they come off the corner, but Meredith here fighting for what is effectively a P5 in the prime class, and behind you have got Joseph Doble trying to get involved there, as Meredith looking around the outside with both mother and father Catherine and John at cheering about in the YouTube chat as I understand it, and as they wind their way down through turns 4 and 5, well, it's going to be Meredith on the inside here. Sykes is going to try and pin it to the outside to get the inside into the hairpin, but how far back will he fall before the braking zone? Well, not too far, because he goes on the brakes, but then Meredith says, no, I've got ahead and I'm closing that door before you can open it up again, and Mark Sykes made to drop a place as they head through 300R. As they charge away out towards turn number 10, Meanwhile, further back, Gavan here. We're at Dan Mould just behind him, and these two not really making too much progress thus far. I suspect they're playing it safe rather than sorry in the early stage of this race. Plus, also the fact they've got a large amount of success in their respective cars. Going deep there, just out of camera, that was Jamie Dory taking a bit of an escape route into the hairpin, but he's been able to bring the car back on. But meanwhile, Michael Lees is off onto the grass, and it's a knock to the barrier there. And when let's go to the front right suspension, there's no question about it, as Dory tries to go around the outside of him, and Lees down the wounded car goes free wide as they come up through turn at number 14. And it's not over yet as Andrew Holmes tries to go around the outside, but in the end finds the marbles, and there's no grip out there as they come off the corner up towards turn 16, and through the right hand they go, and one Andrew Holmes has to back off and hold of Kieran Sharp as they make the way onto lap number 4. We look from them back up to Lee Horn versus Reece Watt, and well, now these two fighting for what is P2 overall and P2 in the prime class. It's crazy to believe right now they're fighting for the overall podium just as much as there is their own podium, but Watt here staying ahead as Lee Horn does not have the speed in the Honda, but he'll have the brakes. He's going to go win here. Watt leaves the door open, knowing it's coming, and as they make the way on through, Horn is going to sail up the inside, and Watt, I think, out-braking himself into the corner, but also aware of the fact that Adam Delmont is only 1.3 seconds away, and it's closing very fast. He doesn't want Delmont to get involved in this battle. As they come into turn number 3, and meanwhile behind them you can see Sam Smith at the back of the long train of cars, all trying to vie for positions. We jump on board here with the iRacing Esports driver, and we'll line astern at this point, but everyone very eager to make progress, and that's the thing now. You have to play this tactically. You've got that momentum, you've got that motivation to try and make moves, but keep in mind that everyone in front of you, as you can see there, Garnet on the inside of Sykes, and Sykes goes very deep on the right, and as they make their way out the hairpin, Smith's now going to get the run and ran on the outside of Mould and the run down towards the hairpin. But the problem is here, you have the overspeed initially, but then given the fact he's travelling on the widest circumference down towards turn number 10, he's going to have Mould down his inside, and now we look to the third person cameras here, and you can see that in its entirety, and the fact that Mould's still there, and Smith can't make him disappear. He can try and shut him out though through turn number 11, and that's exactly what he goes for here, making himself as wide as possible through 12, but Mould is here to stay, and as they go up through turn number 13, side by side they go in the battle for what is his P11 spot. Gardner's being given breathing room here, Smith on the inside out through 14 to 15, further contact between the two of them, and well, it's getting very, very handbags on here between the two of them in terms of the contact as they make the way towards turn 16, side by side. Mould now on the inside to Panasonic, knowing he can go win. Meanwhile, look at Matthew Shepperton looking for a move here versus Sykes. And Matthew Shepperton here trying to make some progress after a difficult first and second race of the day. So it's not over between those guys yet as they make the way onto lap number 5. But the point being that right now it is all fair in love and war, as they say, between Sam Smith and Dan Mould. But Mould has got ahead for the time being. And Sykes versus Shepperton, well, I think Shepperton's not quite got the overspeed versus Sykes in the Audi. The Elantra having to wait. And really right now, looking to be bold on the brakes here. Shepperton's going to go all in on it. He looks up the inside here. He goes for it, to be fair. And I think Sykes sees it coming, opens the door up and says, right, I'll cut this back now. But in the end, Shepperton gets an absolutely perfect run out of turn number 1 and takes the place of P13 overall and P7 in the prime class. As they head in towards turn number 3. Meanwhile, Alex Meredith battling side by side with Adam Delmont, and I think he might be of two minds here, whether to let this go or whether to go all in on the investment, as he's now Cameron Carter behind. But the big danger will be Ian Manners behind, who is P6 Pro-Am versus Meredith is P5 in class. But as they head into the braking zone here for the hairpin, well, they all go line of stern into the corner. Nobody tries to make it too wide initially, but meanwhile further back, we have McCluskey here for NXTGEN Racing, battling with Kieran Sharp from the Sim Racing Collector, remembering that these two have fallen quite some way down the order, particularly McCluskey, given what happened at the start of this race. But three wide they go, and that is going to be around the outside. Paul Scott here as they head on down. Well, Scott on the right, you picture McCluskey in the middle. It's going to be Sharp on the left. Contact with Sharp there between himself and McCluskey, and now as they come on through, McCluskey goes a bit deep. Scott cuts it back, but he'll be on the outside here for turn number 11, and therefore he's going to have to back off. As meanwhile, Daniel Lewis now tries to get involved here as they head up the hill, and well, McCluskey under increasing pressure of Scott. It was likely a wounded Veloster, and as they head in towards turn number 15, also keep in mind that McCluskey's got all the success ballast in the car from race number 2. Scott's got none, so therefore it does mean that McCluskey right now really battling against the element. He's almost swimming uphill, as they say. But as they head in towards turn number 16, for the two drivers right now, they call it a bit of a truce at the moment, and I think they're going to try and focus on going after Sharp, with Lewis getting closer by the corner. Charging away on to the next lap. Meanwhile, we look to Smith here, who's racing offline, trying to break the toe, but also trying to go up the inside of Cheverton as they head down towards turn 1. The iRacing Esports driver here, he's outside the long line of cars. He is losing the distant toe of all the machines in front as Cheverton there rematerialises from the ether due to connectivity and will covers off Smith. Meanwhile, just behind, Sykes there with pressure on his inside from Andrew Holmes. There's a car around, that's Michael Lee's round, and Sykes into the wayward Audi, and what's gone very, very wrong, and Michael Lee just cannot catch a break here today. Early contact into a barrier at turn number 11 and 12, and now it's gone round at turn number 1, and what exactly happened to Michael Lee's? Here's the replay. Went down to the braking zone. This was battling with, I do believe, Andrew Holmes at the time. And onto the brakes, Least there on the anchors. And in the misses braking zone and contact with the side of Sam Smith. And then Sykes coming in and Michael Least just a little bit too late on the brakes. And it all ends up in a bit of a domino effect after that. An unfortunate mistake. And Lee's definitely having one of those days where the circuit and indeed the combination has just not got his way. There's still plenty more rounds in this championship. Keep in mind, we are only in round number 4. We're not even at the completion of the halfway point of the season yet. Albeit we have a mid-season break after today. But meanwhile, looking back to your live picture, with Sykes wounded it and trying to hold on to position P15. He's got long line of Smith, Sharp, McCluskey, Scott and Lewis behind him as they all close together, and Pickett's not too far back either. Meanwhile, we do look from them to your race leader here of Russell Fowler for Performance Link Esports, and well, the number 61 driver at this point, he's just running away with things, much like he did in race 1 in the Prime class. And right now, with the pace he's showing here and a 5-second gap to the highest placed pro of Joseph Doble, the odds are on potentially, unless there's a safety car for Russell Fowler to run this way and become another prime to take an overall win. As meanwhile, we see here it's the battle with the two Doble brothers of Isaac and Joseph, as Mikey Doble also comes on through, all three of them together here, all trying to work together, and Isaac tucks on in, knowing that he wants to focus on prime position. Meanwhile, he'll let his two pro brothers, I think, take him up to what will be the top 3 of the prime class. This is a smart move here, but also Isaac's got to be wary of the fact that Adam Delman and Gavan Gardner are not too far away. And then it will be after them, Alex Meredith and Ian Manners. And keep in mind that Meredith and Manners are both battling for prime positions, much like Isaac Doble. So therefore, he will not want to become complacent and fall too far back. He'll want to try and stay with his brothers as they make their way down through turns 4 and 5. But as they do, meanwhile, we look from them to a bit further down the order. And this is Nick Clippers versus Giorgio Belay for P23. And well, the two of them side by side out of turn 1 and 2. Clippers on the inside here into 3. And onto the brakes they go. And Clibbins here defends hard versus Belay. He's tried to make the move count, but Belay's not out of this yet as they wind their way on down. A little bit of a wobble there for Clibbins going down through 4, but he turned it a bit too soon, having to open the steering back up, and Belay almost making contact. And as they come out of 5 and into 6, we can see Pike there just in front breaking away, but Clibbins still defending as Belay looks around the outside, but he doesn't cut it back, and this is going to cost him all the momentum coming out of 7 on towards 300R now, as he just will not have the overspeed in the end, heading down towards the hairpin. As they charge their way down towards the braking zone for turn number 10. Meanwhile, we look from them to back up the order. And in particular, we look back at, oh, goodness me, at Giorgio Belay going very, very late on the brakes. I think misses braking point and also taking a bit of a grass on the braking. And the Scone Cold Digital HHR driver in the end collecting the car using the runoff area. But that could have been disastrous if he hadn't been able to catch it in time. But still a good catch there from the number 9 driver. But we look from him back to the battle for P2 here on the start finish straight as they go on to lap number 8, 4 laps remaining. And it's Lee Horn versus Reese Watt in the drag race here. And well, the Audi outpaces of the Honda very gradually, but you can see how Horner right now, he's insisting on that inside line, and he's going to pin what is Watt to the outside as much as he can, using the brakes of that Honda to his advantage. And that's the one thing that Watt just cannot find a way to undo as they make the way out of turn number 2. We ride on board here, and Watt taking a bit of a grasp for his efforts. He looks up the inside here, going all in under braking versus Horner, who he's going to make stay around the back of him, albeit I believe as they make the way down. We look back here from the rear of Watt's car, side-by-side contact there between the two of them, albeit Horn trying to hold around the outside. He's not going to get that done initially, and in fact Horn there being elbowed out going into turn number 6. To be fair, it's fair contact between them. They are allowed to make contact in this league, and as they come down through turn number 6 and into 7, fair racing between the two of them, hard but fair. And Reese Watt does take that P2 in the end for JW Motorsport as they now head down towards where's the Dunlop hairpin chicane sequence. And I think Watt will now know that he's got a 3-second gap to try and strip down if he wants to take on Russell Fowler, but he's still got Lee Horner right there with him, and Horn is not done yet. He'll be looking at this and thinking, I could still come back at you before this race is done. As they head in towards turn number 13, Meanwhile, looking from them to a bit further back, well, this is Benjamin McCluskey, who's chased after Kieran Sharp on the inside, and that is a very daring poke up the inside into turn number 11. And look at this from Paul Scott, who goes up the inside of McCluskey in return as he's out of position, coming out of 12. Daniel Lewis just behind, still trying to find a way into this battle. He can't quite find it at the moment as they make the way uphill into turn number 15. Through nets they go, and well, Lewis just having to watch still and play the very gradual keeper here in terms of trying to gain places as they make the way towards the end of this lap through Panasonic corner. But right now, Paul Scott ahead of McCluskey, and well, is going to try and use the toe of Sharp to keep him ahead, albeit McCluskey here very close and could be coming back for a move before the end of the start for this straight. As they charge the way down. Meanwhile, Dan Mould side by side with Ian Manners here for P10, and will Mould trying to make this pass effective into turn number 1. He pulls back in front there onto the racing line, and will Manners not reacting now. I think deciding enough's enough, tuck in and simply let the place go. Meanwhile here, Daniel Lewis looking to try and make it 3 wide under braking into turn 1 versus Scott and also McCluskey, and then it'll be 2 wide versus McCluskey, but he has a tight exit, and that's going to cost him the exit speed. But it was a good attempt from the 318 Audi SRL driver as he heads in towards turn number 3. In the fact that right now the Briton eager to make places and starting to show himself in the fact he's P10 in the Prime class right now, gained some points for that, but he wants more, and he could be looking at a P8 in the Prime class here when all is said and done with the laps remaining. But as they head uphill, meanwhile Shane Piggott just behind there. He's watching on for Ace of Spades Racing in a Veloster that definitely has seen a few bumps and scrapes today, but still the number 27 driver here enjoying the race as he comes out of turn 6 and looking on the battle in front of him, thinking that I could be in that mix very shortly, particularly if it all kicks off in the last 2 laps. But heading on down towards turn at number 10, and meanwhile we have Kieran Sharp, they're defending hard on the inside here versus McCluskey. Lewis watching from behind, McCluskey going around the outside again, trying to set up this outside to inside run, and well then Kieran Sharp coming back immediately after. It's a repeat of last time around, but Lewis on the inside now versus McCluskey, and well the SRL driver here sees his opportunity as they head up the hill, and now McCluskey under pressure for nets, but Lewis on that outside, he won't have enough room in order to turn the car through the apex and go for a countback move. Instead it will be McCluskey who holds on, and now Lewis versus Piggott up the hill. They go into Panasonic corner, and Piggott here just needs to be smart as he exits the corner, get the better exit, get in the toe. He does exactly that now. He's got to be patient with this because he's pulled out early, but watch what happens here in the fact that he's got the overspeed initially, but now Lewis in the toe, plus also the Audi straight line speed versus the Veloster. It will mean it will gradually start to pull back ahead, so Piggott needs to tuck back in immediately here, get some more speed and try to find a way on through, but I think he's called this too late, and now he's going to find himself just waiting under braking it into turn number 1, and no move away in this time around as they head through turn number 1, albeit it's going to be Lewis who goes deep, but Piggott not there to capitalise as they make the way off the corner. As they head on through towards turn number 3, we keep our eyes here on Piggott as he looks up the inside into left-hander, but not close enough and has to back out of it once again. But looking at from them, we have had Joseph Doble, who's found his way past Lee Horn only moments ago. They've got what is there, Reese Watt only 4 tenths in front. So right now they are trying to bring one is both Joseph and Mikey up towards what will be the top 3 positions, and also within that, well, there is Isaac Doble a couple of places further behind as Mikey Doble at the inside there, all at Lee Horn, and will Horn there just letting it go. But meanwhile Adam Delman now looking at this and thinking, okay, well, where's my opportunity to take a place off the prime drivers as they head in towards turn number 13. Horner will not want to lose too many places because then he'll have Isaac Doble nipping at his heels for the final podium spot in the prime class as they head up towards turn at number 15. What under pressure, increasing pressure, and with Russell Fowler only 2.2 seconds up the road, he'll feel as though he could potentially have a shot at Fowler should Fowler make a mistake. But as this is Fowler's race to lose overall in the prime class, as they make the way out of turn number 16 for the penultimate time. The final lap beckons here, ladies and gentlemen, and right now it is Russell Fowler who leads by 2.2 seconds in an Audi RS3 that doesn't look to be losing any momentum. Reese Watt in P2 overall. He'll want the overall podium, he'll want the second place of the prime class, but pressure is growing from Josie Doble and Mikey Doble behind as they charge down to the final lap. It's white flag waving. Watt goes defensive here, and you can see immediately Joseph Doble just putting onto the racing line, trying to get into Watt's head, get him to outbrake himself, and he does so as he goes for the opening hairpin. And now as they come on down through turns 2 and 3, Watt's going to have to go defensive on the inside. This is going to give Russell Fowler all all the time of day up front as he cuts his way past our cameraman's attention span. And as they make their way through turn number 3, it's going to be Joseph Doble around the outside. Watt fights it, but Joseph Doble makes the move count. Now Mikey Doble on the inside here as they come through turns 4 and 5, and immediately the domino effect is felt here. Look at Lee Horn, he's on the back of Reese Watt now as they come into the braking zone for turn 6. But Watt defends, he makes sure that Mikey Doble has to go the long way round, and this buys at Watt time, and it means, oh goodness me, it's gone wrong for Reese Watt as contact there with Mikey Doble sends him round, and which the pinch of contact in the end, but pinch is enough for it to all go wrong, and the JW Motorsport driver absolutely now seemed despair after what could have been a second place podium in the Pro Class at minimum. But Lee Horn is promoted, and as they make the way on through the Dunlop S chicane and heading up towards turn number 13, we're still side-by-side battling here inside the top 10 all the way through. And look at Alex Meredith here trying to look for a way past Gavan Gardner in these late stages. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to find it as he looks around the outside of next bend. He's going to dare to dream of go around the outside, and with Isaac Doble just in front of him, he could potentially make a lunge into the final corner, but I think he might back out of that. As meanwhile they make the way up the final corner, and this man is heading towards a checker flag, and he's going to add himself to the name, or the list we should say, of the prime drivers who've taken an overall win. It's Russell Fowler from Sling Esports who makes it 2 wins in the Prime Class today, but more importantly the overall win ahead of Joseph Doble P2, Adam Delman P3, Mikey Doble P4 ahead of Lee Horn, runner-up in the Prime Class P5 ahead of Isaac Doble P6 who completes the Prime podium. Gavan Gardner, Alex Meredith, Dan Mould and Ian Manners complete your top 10 ahead of what will be Matthew Sheraton at P11 best of race, and then more drives to come on through including Andrew Pike who comes home in a bit of a lonely P20 there ahead of Ian Wild, and Wild there taking P11 in the Prime Class, best of the rest of the classes, best result of the day. And then it'll be Nick Clemens P22 overall, and then very shortly we have coming to the pits what will be, I believe, Reese Watt, but John Higgins Jr. P23, and Reese Watt with that pit stop will lose place as well as Georgia Bly comes on through for what will be, I believe, P24 classified afterwards, but we'll have to wait and see. It's P25 on our timing tower, Mark Sykes P26, and then it will be Alan McCain P27 ahead of Ben Altria, who will come on home P28 there for Full Tilt V Motorsport in a difficult day today for the 504 driver as he heads on down. And then our last finisher on the lead lap very shortly will be Matthew Addy as the bad luck curse continues to strike for the Sam Casey, the next gen driver in the number 57 Honda Civic Type R, but still he weaves his way on down, and he will finish on the lead lap when all is said and done. But definitely a challenging race in the end, and we did have in the pits Michael Lees, Lucas Kolch, Luke Jones and Daniel Fritz. So 33 starters, 29 finish on the lead lap. But this man here, Russell Fowler, he adds his name to a very limited list, albeit that list is gradually expanding, it would seem, but he now becomes another prime to take an overall win, and what a way to do so. Taking at 2 place at the start of the race when everybody else around him seemed to be losing their head, he kept his cool, and from that point onwards, never gave up and kept the gap constant. But as he makes his way down, Joseph Doble as well with another major points finish in this third race of the day. Well, he could be holding on to the championship lead after today, or close to doing so. We'll have to wait and see for the Doble Sim Racing driver as he makes his way down the pit lane. But as they all come on through, also another great points from Gavan Gardner. 2 P5s and a P7. The next gen racing pink driver, he may not be taking stellar results every single round, but I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, if it's not stellar, it's highly consistent, and Gavan Gardner, I think, could definitely be inside the top 3 come the end of today in terms of those championship standings. But still, with all drivers making their way into the pit lane, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, Russell Fowler in the end taking the overall win for Performance Link Esports in our final race of the day at Fuji International Speedway in round 4 of the NXTCC Season 4. And 2.5 seconds clear of Doble Sim Racing's Joseph Doble, with Adam Delman rounding off the overall podium there for Mark Sonic's Designs. A further 1.5 seconds back, it was Mikey Doble P4 for Doble Sim Racing, who just managed to outpace Lee Horn to the checker flag by a 100th, if that, at the end. Lee Horn, your prime runner-up for Sam Case for the next gen, ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Isaac Doble, who round off the prime podium, which was made up of Fowler, Horn and Doble in the end. Gavan gone up P7 for Next Gen Racing Pink by 3 attempts over Alex Meredith. The Kemi Talk Motorsport driver, another great set of performances today, and indeed carrying on from where he left off in round number 2. Then Dan Mould for SRL ahead of Ian Manners to complete the top 10 for JW Motorsport, and Matthew Sheraton just missing out on an overall top 10, but still he'll take a P6 in the Prime class, P11 best of the rest at Aztec Racing. Andrew Holmes P12 in his best performance of today, and indeed a difficult debut for the privateer, but enjoying the racing it would seem, particularly in that final race, with Jamie Doyle P13 for Next Gen Racing Pink, 4 seconds clear of Sam Smith, and then Paul Scott completing your top 15. And behind the Sam Case for Next Gen driver, P16 was Benjamin McCluskey for Next Gen Racing, and then Kieran at Sharp P17, a brilliant battle between himself and McCluskey for the Sim Racing Collective, and then SRL's Daniel Lewis ahead of Shane Pickett for Ace of Spades Racing, and Andrew Pike completing at the top 20. Ian Will P21 for CS Sim Racing with Mally Motors, head of Nick Lewins, and John Higgins Jr. with that rotation in the end out turn number 3, where he was turned around 180 degrees, spoiling what could have been a definite top 10. And George O'Brien P24 ahead of Mark Sykes, and then Alan McCain, Ben Altrier, and Matthew Addy completing your top 28, and with that your 28 finishers on the lead lap, and indeed on the lead lap and not ending up in the pit lane on the final lap. Speaking of which, Reece Watt has been demoted to P29 for finishing in the pit lane for JW Motorsport, and what an upsetting end to what could have been a fantastic final race of the day. And you've got to feel for the Briton, ladies and gentlemen, and still he'll look to come back strong in round number 5. We then also had 4 drivers who finished at least 1 or more laps down, including Michael Lees there for Mark Sykes Designs, 4 laps down. He'll be classified as a finisher as he completed over half the race distance in P30. Lucas Kolch, P31 there, 8 laps down. He'll be classified as a non-finisher, as will JW Motorsports' Luke Jones, and also at Daniel Fritz Whiskey on Racing with Next Gen. And well, as we can see there, 4 retirees as classified, one of them being a finisher, and then 29 finishers on the lead lap. Quite a low rate of attrition here today at the Fuji International Speedway, and that's the kind of racing we love to see. And well, now that concludes all of our racing for today. But it doesn't conclude our broadcast, of course, because coming up in approximately 15 minutes time, we'll be announcing our Higgins Automotive Prime Driver of the Day, and then moving on to our post-round interview. So there's still plenty for you to stick around and tune in for, ladies and gentlemen. And whilst you are waiting for us to move on and to getting ready for our post-round interviews and that Driver of the Day announcement, do let us know in your respective chat what was your favourite moment or moments of the day. But until then, we'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then. But before we go to our post-round interviews, of course, we always do our driver of the day, the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day. And joining me in the commentary booth is none other than John Higgins Sr. himself. Good evening to you, John. And well, another fantastic night of racing action. And it feels sad in a way to say we've got a mid-season break next week.
Yeah, gutting that we're not going to be able to do this next week. And good evening, Paul, and everybody that's listening. Some scintillating racing again tonight. Yeah, not a track I was too familiar with. I think I've only ever driven it twice when I was doing the sim racing back in the day. But yeah, awesome racing. Credit to everybody. Once again, we all get a week off next week and then go again. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Oh, indeed. I think we all need a week off after the racing that we've had. And, well, speaking of hard work, I get the feeling it's been quite hard work today for you to pick out a driver of the day.
It's been very hard work. The list is long but distinguished. You know, the pro-ams are just knocking it out of the park at the moment. You know, you only have to look at qualifying and how everybody's doing, and yeah, some real standout names without mentioning everybody, which I could do because I think everybody's drove really well tonight. Lee Horn has had another exceptional night tonight. But one person I do want to shout out who's really impressed me, and I know he's been about for a long time, and I thought he drove really well whenever the clip was on the stream of him getting stuck in, was Paul Scott. I think Paul Scott drove an absolute blinder in all three races tonight. You know, Ben McCluskey's obviously came in. I think there may be a review of his grading moving forward, but Ben was obviously quick, just very unlucky in the third race. I'm not sure if he got caught up in an incident, but fell down the order. But you know, to call my driver of the day, any pro-am that wins a outright race overall is going to get my vote. And I think he had two class wins anyway. But the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day tonight is without question Russell Fowler. I think you drove an absolute blinder all night, mate. Well done. Great to watch, and congratulations on your victory in race 3.
Well, phenomenal drive. I'd agree with you there with regards to Russell Fowler. Not just the overwin in race 3, which is no mean feat, and he becomes the fourth individual who's achieved that in the NXTCC history. But like
Yep.
you say as well, 2 overall wins. Just one race where it didn't quite work out, but he never let that upset him, to be fair.
No, you just got to keep digging, Paul. You know, you've raced sim, I've raced sim, and you know when the chips are down, you just got to keep digging and you know try and do the best you can, and you know, get it back. And yeah, he's really impressed me tonight. And as have many people. Listen, the list, I could have picked 1 or 12 people tonight to win that pro-am driver of the day, but like I said, anybody that gets an overall victory racing as a pro-am is going to get the vote, because it is so difficult when you look at the names that you're racing against. So yeah, massive well done, Russell. And yeah, everybody enjoy the season break, and look forward to doing it in a fortnight's time again.
Oh, indeed. But just before we do let you go, John, just a quick word on the Higgins Automotive business. I believe you guys have been very busy recently with quite a unique job working on what I believe is an accessibility based ramp for a van or a bus, I believe.
Yeah, it's a company that I used to work for, so I'm doing some renovation work for them. They have the Motability contract and supply replacement hire vehicles for Motability clients, and you know, the disabled ramps get knocked about, as you can imagine. So you know, the company is Proximo Limited. And they always want the vehicles to look tip top, and obviously I have a connection through there. I used to run the branch network for 4 years for them before leaving last November. So it's nice to get that tie in again with the guys, and you know, they keep sending me work, which is great. And yeah, it's onwards and upwards. The business is going really well, and just got to keep pushing it and building it, and see where that takes us at some point.
Oh, most definitely. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know more about Hean's Automotive, I do believe it's on Facebook, unless I'm incorrect, John.
It's just on Facebook at the moment, Paul. Once I get some time, we will obviously stretch it out to further avenues of social media and get the website set up and stuff. It's just I'm absolutely flat out at the moment. I just don't have time to do that, but we will get to it at some point towards the end of this year, and yeah, just keep building it. And thanks to my partner Gemma, who's heavily involved in it. Junior comes and gives me a dig out pretty often after he's finished his work because he works for Proximo. So he comes and gives me a dig out after work, which is muchly appreciated, and everybody else that's been involved in it. My mom and dad and Gemma's parents and everybody for the support. So I can't thank everybody enough. It is greatly appreciated, and like I say, it's early days. We're just going to keep pushing on and keep building it and see where it takes us. But at the moment, life's pretty good, and yeah, onwards and upwards, as they say.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of appreciating things, as always, we do appreciate the title sponsorship for this season from Hean's Automotive, and also your time as always this evening, John. And we look forward to hearing more from you when we return in 2 weeks' time.
Absolute pleasure, Paul. Well done tonight.
Oh, thank you, John. And well, you have a lovely evening. And with that, we now do turn our attentions to our first interview for today. And it's going to be none other than Russell Fowler, who gets ready to join me in the interview room. And speaking of which, he joins me now. Well, good evening to you, Russell. And what an evening you've had. Not just your first 2 wins this season in the Pro-Am class, but also you add your name to a very rare list of names. Only 4 individuals have become overall winners in the Pro-Am class, and now you're one of them. How does it feel?
Awesome, in a word. I mean, it's the sort of result that you dream of when you're grinding out practice and doing lap after lap, daydreaming about winning something someday. So yeah, it's great. I'm chuffed to bits, really. I'm just grinning ear to ear at the moment. Yeah, you got to get a little bit of luck, and I think I got a little bit of luck in race 3. So I think I was due it. I've had a bit of an up and down sort of season so far, where I've been taken out quite a number of times. So it's really nice to get a good set of results, and I think a lot of that is based on just qualifying well and staying out of the trouble in the mid pack, where it tends to get a bit tasty.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of qualifying, as we've just looked back at that phenomenal pass to lead in race number 3, and we'll come to that in due course. In qualifying, pole position in the Pro-Am class, P3 on the overall grid, and we always thought today Fuji was going to be just as much about getting a good toe down the start-finish straight as it was about nailing the lap and making the most of your choice of vehicle, but you seem to do it all perfectly in an Audi that gave you everything.
Oh yeah, I'm really gelling with the Audi. I love it. It's taken a few races to kind of get used to it. I was in the Honda before that, but no, I absolutely love the Audi. It's brilliant. And in quali, I mean, wow, it was so close. I mean, I think that 2/3 of the field were within a second of the pole sitter, so that's incredible. And also big shout out to the other pro-ams. What a great showing tonight, right? Really mixing it up. At the top, I don't know how many of the top 10 were pro-ams, but there were a few of us up there. So, it's good, pushing these pros. Maybe they're getting lazy or something, I don't know.
Oh, indeed. Well, I don't think it's through lack of trying, but like you say, with only 4 pros inside the top 10 and 6 prams, of which you were the tip of the spear, and then going into race 1, you very quickly found yourself in a bit of a lonely lead in P3.
Yeah, well, that was okay. I didn't mind that. I wanted to stay close enough to Jamie and Dan, because they were mixing it up a bit, and I thought, well, you never know. So I wanted to try and stay within a second, and I think I fell a little bit further back at one point, but it was pretty comfortable. I like, in some ways that's quite nice. It's weird, that race felt more like a GT3 race, where the field's a little bit more spread out, and you're you know, the sort of battling and chances don't come very often. So it's just about kind of being consistent. So so that was good. Yeah, it was not as lonely as race 3. I mean, that was, you know, well, I think once I got lucky at the first corner, and I think I would put a lot of that down to luck, just managed to make a bit of a gap. But I know you're going to ask me about race 2, so just let's get that out of the way.
Well, how about before we get to race 2, one question I think many would like to ask is, this circuit has been a circuit which works well for all the cars in the grid, whether it's the Audi, the Veloster, the Elantra, or alternatively the Honda Civic Type R. But where do you feel as though the Audi was strong around here, and where do you feel as though perhaps it was lacking?
Oh, well, I'm not sure you're asking the right person, because I haven't really, well, I haven't driven either of the Hyundais, and it wasn't. I thought maybe it might be, you know, quick on the first half of the straight, but it really wasn't. It was quite even. I'm not sure that there was any particular sector or part of the track where it felt it was a big advantage being in an Audi or a big disadvantage. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe ask the other guys. I don't know.
Well, that's absolutely fair. And really, we're just trying to put some space in it before we do ask you about race number 2. And it all went a little bit wrong, a little bit early.
Yeah, I mean, so given how close it was in quali and how tightly packed, you know, things were in terms of people's pace, I fully expected that it would be a difficult race 2 with, you know, a fair bit of a weight. And I think I got a bit of a tap coming out of turn 1. I think later in the first lap there might have been another incident where I was pushed wide or something. I can't remember now, to be honest. But I think I went from 3rd to 18th in the first lap. So I thought it was going to be challenging, but yeah, to find yourself down in 18th, you know. But then I refocused straight away to the fact that it's reverse grid for the 3rd race, so get as high up as possible. You know, give myself the best chance of starting near the front. I think I finished 16th, something like that, and luckily, I think P18 was the reverse grid from what I remember. So I started 3rd, which was great. So I thought to myself, I've got a reasonable chance of getting another podium here. I'm going to take it, you know, calm in the first lap. But the opportunity presented itself on the first corner. So I just sort of grabbed it. And after that, I thought, right, I'm just going to get the hammer down. Because, you know, there were lots of pros at the front of the, front of the grid, but you know the pros are coming. So I wanted to try and eke out a couple of seconds, you know, something that was going to be difficult for those guys to close down once they picked through the rest of the guys. But I don't think they actually made it through till maybe the second to last lap or something. So again, kudos to my colleagues in the Pro-Am category for putting up a good fight and helping me maintain a bit of a gap. So call it a team effort, yeah.
Oh, indeed, in a way you could say it was. And in running away at the front of the field and really just bringing to an end what's been a fantastic day at the Fuji circuit. Also picking up the Driver of the Day award as well, sponsored by Higgins Automotive. You couldn't ask for a better way to wrap up what is the first portion of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really happy, and Driver of the Day as well. Wow. Okay, I'll take that. That's great. I think we've got a break now, so I guess it's 2 weeks until the next one. So plenty of time to refocus and just get the practice in. But at the moment, I'm feeling great. This is the second season I've done in touring cars. I've been focused on GT3 beforehand, and starting to get some good results and feeling that I've got a good pace in the Pro-Am. So I'm not sure if I'm too far back really to stage any kind of bid for a top 3 finish, but I'll give it a good bash anyway in the second half of the season.
Well, currently based on provisional results, you are running in what would be somewhere inside the top 5 and quite close to the front of the Pro-Am field,
Oh,
albeit
okay.
subject to confirmation. So I think you're well within a shot of a top 3. And we're heading to Circuit Charles Villeneuve for round number 5.
Great, love that. Yeah, that's another circuit that I like actually. Yeah, I've had some good results there, but never driven the touring cars there, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's yeah, I like that. I like that track. So good. Yeah, bring it on.
Well, I'm loving the enthusiasm, and indeed, it's always great to hear for yourself after you've had a fantastic day, in the fact the energy's there and the excitement that comes with it. And well, just before we do let you go, Russell, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, big shout out to my teammates Jono and Tom. I know Jono is ducking out of this league, so you know, I'll be flying the flag for the team. But we do lots of practice together, and he's always very helpful in because he's basically quicker than me. So you know, it's good to have a teammate that's quicker than you, right? And Tom as well. Always good fun racing with Tom. So those guys definitely. You guys for putting on a great show, and of course my wife and kids for putting up with a lot of practice and yeah, they're always very understanding, and I'm bouncing off the walls at the moment, so they'll hopefully that will be a good thing for those guys as well. Trying to inspire my kids to get into this, but anything that I do, anything that Daddy does, must be really boring to them. So I'll see if this changes things. But anyway, big shout out to those guys.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant to hear. And hopefully you can get your kids into sim race. And I'm sure when they see that you're wall-to-wall bouncing around, they'll want to know more.
Exactly. Yeah.
But with that, Russell, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to have you in the interview room. Congratulations on a sensational set of results today to wrap up your first 4 rounds of the season. And 2 weeks from now, you never know, more could come at Montreal. But until then, enjoy the moment and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Great. Cheers, Paul. Thanks very much.
So hearing there from Russell Fowler, who is absolutely overjoyed. You can hear it in his voice, in the fact, I don't think it's quite sinking in, and the reality is only gradually sinking in now with regards to what he's been able to achieve here today. And we're thinking that he might be within a shot of a top 3 come the end of the season if things carry on. I can tell you right now, in terms of the overall standings, he's going to be sitting provisionally at P12 on equal points with Lee Horn, and only weighs 12 points off of leading Pro-Am driver overall of Isaac Doble. And if anything, the Performance Link esports driver Russell Fowler right now has put himself on the map today as a major contender. And if you can carry this on going into the next couple of rounds after the mid-season break, there's no reason why he may not be vying for the win come the end of this championship season. But again, it's a long journey and he's going to enjoy each and every moment. And today, he was absolutely on fine form in qualifying in race number 1. Race 2, in his own words, it was a difficult race, fell down the order but recovered to P16, and in benefiting from the reverse grid and the luck at the start of race 3 with that very smart and calculated opportunistic move to take the lead from the battlers in front. It meant that Russell Fowler at the end of the day was just able to break away as everybody else got caught up in their own battles, and he just skimmed his way to 2 Pro-Am wins, an overall win, and also the Higgins Automotive driver of the day. And what a way to go into the mid-season break. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our second driver for interview, and it'll be none other than Jamie Dory, who gets ready very shortly. And we just ask him to get ready for us. Give us a brief moment. And we'll get to hear the perspective from the pro driver today, who's definitely had mixed results with regards to how the racing has gone. And well, I do believe he is ready to join us, so we'll get to hear his perspective immediately as he does join me now. We say a good evening to Jamie Dory. And Jamie, a challenging night tonight in the fact it was all going perfectly for qualifying race 1 and race 2. And in race number 3, just not quite able to find your way through in the end.
No, I mean, it was, damage, race 3, lap 1, turn 1. Aero damage with the weight. I was a sitting duck.
But still, plenty of positives to take away from today, including in qualifying a near pole position, albeit beaten to the post by Dan Mould, but still a P2. And I remember you saying to me in the build-up to tonight that it was all about getting maximum possible points from Fuji.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously going into it, I like Fuji. I liked how Fuji was feeling. I'm starting to with the car. And I'm just trying to get those points and make my way back up. I think my championship hunt defense, shall we say, starts from here on, I think.
Oh, most definitely. And with that P2 in qualifying, we saw you have a thrilling battle for the win all the way through the first race of the day, but not quite able to find that last little bit to take the win.
No, I think, I know that Veloster inside out. It's a great car. The one thing I've noticed with the Elantra is up to 2/3 of the race, it's stronger than the Veloster. On the last third, it really loses its front grip. So I was having to go slower, and I knew, Dan's a top racer, isn't he? So he's going to be hard to overtake. And I got to the point I was trying to put him under pressure. But in the same breath, my motto with the old trying to just score the points when you've been beaten.
True, and picking up some good points as a result of our first race of the day, and then going into race number 2, you weren't going to be beaten twice.
No, absolutely not. Like I say, I think I've ran with weight a lot of last season. I get weight fairly often in this season. Like I said, the more track time I'm spending with that car, the more I'm understanding it. It drives very similar to the Veloster. There's just a few quirks about it. So it's one of those that it's like I say, I'm just gelling with the car, and I have the confidence in it around here to be able to push, use the curbs a lot more than the other cars, which the Elantra can do. And yeah, I mean, going on to Gilles Villeneuve, nice big curbs there. That'd be an interesting one.
Oh, most definitely. And we'll come on to the third race of the day very shortly and how that played out. But as we were speaking to Russell Fowler earlier about the fact that all 4 cars that came to the Fuji circuit today all seem to be relatively even on consideration. And we've known the Elantra to be a very fast car over a single lap. It looked as though it started to fall away towards the end of the race. But were there any other weaknesses you identified as you made your way around? Because I know you're quite analytical with the different cars on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, not really. I've spent a lot of time in every car, obviously organising, testing weights and things like this in every single touring car. They've all got their quirks, they've all got their pro tracks. It's the Elantra, round there felt, like I say, it felt good. It felt the best I've managed to pick it up with. I don't know if that's me adapting to it or whether the car just suited that track. You always see the Elantra doing well in the official series and things like that. So I think it's just once you get used to a car, you're able to push that extra 5% when and if needs. And I think that's it. So I think they're all close around here. They all have their positive sections, and I mean, I think is it 100R, the long right hander, the Elantra felt slower than the others, but you had to just put a different technique in to be able to keep it. But other than that, yeah, no, it felt strong.
Well, with the strength of the car, you're going to need it in the final race of the day, what with that P18 start. But as you said earlier, some early damage picked up, plus also success, but that's really held you back from being able to make progress. Still a P13, so some points on the board.
Yeah, obviously P13 is normally the number I run. Lucky number, but I felt like we could have done better. Like I said, there was a mistake from another car into turn one, and I bounced off 4 cars and had a bit of damage to the front end and straight line speed. With the weight, you won't get the run out of the corners, but at the end of a straight like Fuji, you'd be able to match them, or close in a good tow. However, with that damage, I couldn't. So I was having to really drive the car beyond what was, I'd say, appropriate to try and keep up with the other cars. Luckily, there was a bit of battling and a few other damaged cars. And it was just trying to bring home the points. Like I say, that's all I can do. I've had a rubbish start to the season. I think it's the #1 car curse again. So yeah, it's just trying to score the points. And I didn't see Mikey, my relative, in the first 2 races, or Joseph. So I was like, that's a points game. And yeah, just trying to pick them off.
Well, speaking of those games, going into tonight, you were P8 in the overall championship, and now coming out of it provisionally, you're P4 and only approximately what is 30 points behind championship leader Gavan Gardner, as I'm to understand it now, going into the mid-season break. So the momentum is on your side, and Montreal awaits us in 2 weeks' time. How are you feeling for the next portion of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I generally love Montreal as a circuit. I really, really do. Obviously, the Audi's going to be strong around there. It's going to be a interesting race. 30, 40 touring cars racing between solid concrete walls. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a few safety cars. Obviously, the Wall of Champions. Hopefully, that curse doesn't get me going into there. But yeah, like I say, I mean, Gavan's my teammate. We obviously try and help each other out, but I think those gloves might be, let's just say one glove may be off, but to try and get back up there.
Oh, definitely understandable, particularly with that title defence now starting to build its momentum and you're pushing on in full swing. And well, we look forward to seeing how you get on at Montreal in 2 weeks' time. But just before we do let you go, Jamie, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, obviously usual sponsors, NXTGEN itself, is yourself for doing a sterling job as always. Glad you've got your voice. More than anyone, Higgins, Senior, John Higgins, for sponsoring the league and popping in and doing what he's doing. Obviously, you can check out Higgins Automotive on Facebook and everything like that. He's done a great job. So the usual shout outs. Hopefully we'll be here and be able to spend a little bit more time together at the end of the season when I try and defend that crown.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the season progresses for yourself, Jamie. But until then, congratulations once again on a great set of performances today with a double podium and a win, something we've not seen quite recently, but it's great to see you right up on the top step. And until next time, have a fantastic rest of your evening.
See you later, Paul. Thank you.
So hearing it there from our #1 driver, Jamie Doble, defending overall champion, and really talking about there the fact that he feels though his title defence is now underway after a difficult opening 3 rounds, and you can understand why in the fact he really has been a fringe character in that overall championship, down towards the bottom end of the top 10, and really been stuck in first gear of the first 3 rounds, with a major result then being offset by a very difficult result and vice versa. And now today, consistency really shone through. With a limited amount of success ballasting qualifying, was able to now qualify in the Elantra, and then going into race #1, wasn't quite able to find his way through for the win, with Dan Mould being able to take it from him instead, despite their back and forth battle, but the SRL driver finding that edge. But in race #2, he wasn't going to be beaten a second time, and that's where the points all came through. Meanwhile, race 3, damage early on in the race, plus also on top of that, success ballast in the car. It was never quite going to be a winning combination with everything was put together, but still, he had to think about the damage limitation there, and also the fact that with his main championship rivals such as Mikey Doble and also Joseph Doble having difficult races of their own all the way through this evening, where it worked out quite nicely for the Next Gen Racing Pink driver. And it means now going to Montreal, he's excited for that one. And I think he feels that whilst it will be a circuit that's going to favour the Audi to a degree, he can also do some damage to other drivers' championship campaigns by doing well there. And also speaking there a little bit about potentially taking one glove off, battling with his rival Gavan, who is also his teammate in Next Gen Racing Pink. Albeit I think they'll prioritise the team before taking one off the circuit. But you show you now that itch to win the championship is definitely coming to Jamie Dory's way. But now, as we come on to our final interview for today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to very shortly be hearing from none other than Alex Meredith, our Pro-Am driver today, who after a significant break is now back on form. And well, let's hear what he's got to say with regards to his performances and also going into that mid-season break, knowing that he's a bit behind on points, but he's gained some major ones today. So without further ado, he joins me in the interview room now. And good evening to you, Alex. And it's great to have you back on circuit. Albeit I think you've missed it quite a bit, but I can tell you one thing. In that absence, your ability has not gone away. A double podium today. And, well, not quite a double podium, I should say, in the races, but a double podium including qualifying. And also a P4 in race number 3. Strong showing from yourself.
Yeah, good evening, Paul. Pretty decent race. Obviously, I felt like Fuji suited the Elantra quite well. Felt like I had pretty decent pace around there. But yeah, I'd say most of the races it was just trying to keep consistent. As I missed one round, obviously I need to try and just get some consistent points. I think I made the right decision by not trying to fight any stupid battles, because obviously I need those points because I've missed a round. So I'm going to be trying a little bit more to get a higher result in Canada, but I think today was just more solidation of, just getting some points back on the board.
Almost definitely, and what a way to start it off with a P6 overall in qualifying, a P3 in class, and it looked as though it was always going to be very close up there, with slipstream being a big factor and also nailing at such a technical circuit, but you found a way to get well inside the top 10 and it set you up for success.
Yeah, I was very pleased with my coil lap, considering I didn't have too much slipstream. I think I was about 1.5 behind, which maybe isn't enough to get the full effect, but I think it's Sector 2 that I really hooked up. I think I got a purple Sector 2 on my lap, so I was extremely happy with that. Sector 3 I maybe lost about a 10th, maybe could have got a little bit more, a few more positions, but I think P6 was a pretty handy starting position.
Well, indeed, and taking it from there, going into our first race of the day, a good start for yourself, albeit it looked as though in the end you started to come up against a couple of pro drivers who waited to fight their way through, and of course with it there's always some primes behind waiting to pounce.
Yeah, I got the clutch bite wrong a little bit at the start, so I released it and then I had to pop it back in for a split second, which lost me about 2/10, and down into the first corner, that 2/10 adds up to make a second once you get down to the first corner. So not the best start. Dropped to P9, I think, by the end of the first lap, which wasn't fantastic. And then, just trying to maybe consider the next 2 races, because obviously race 1 isn't the only race. You're not just racing for that race. So as I was looking behind me, I saw 2 Pro-Ams behind me. And I made a mistake, I think it was lap 3, that let Matthew Addy through. And then I was into P10, so I had a bit of decision to make, either try and overtake Matthew and get a better position, or hang back a little bit and get P11 for race 2, so I didn't have the ballast. So I decided to do the latter and just sort of sat behind him for a bit and just made sure I had no incidents, and then I didn't have ballast for the next race, so it worked out perfectly.
That's a very smart call. We were wondering if you may have opted to try and drop yourself back a position to avoid any success ballast. And with that P11 fish in race 1, then going into race number 2, not quite making progress necessarily overall, but definitely making major progress in class. A 3rd place finish in the Pro-Am category, albeit you had to fight hard to earn it.
Yeah, I think race 2 was probably the better race of the 3, I think, mainly because I could quite easily have the pace to maybe fight with a few of the pros, but it was more the fact of I'm not on the same points as them. I don't want to have ballast once again for the third race. I want to be as low down as possible without being behind more pro-ams for the reverse grid. So I think when I saw 3 pro-ams behind me, I thought, right, okay, if these 3 go, that means I have less fuel and higher position for race 3, and race 3 was the main focus for me this evening.
And with that focus going into race number 3 and starting at the tail end of a top 7 of Pro-Am drivers before we then had a couple of pros to round up the top 10 with our top 18 inverted. It was going to be a tough race given the fact that you've got most of your rivals in front of you, but you've also got some very fast drivers behind you. But you seem to find a good balance in fighting for position and a P4 in the ending class.
Yeah, the issue was I had obviously I had Isaac in front of me along with Lee Horn and all all the rest of the pro-ams. Obviously there are 7, which was just mad. So I knew it was going to be difficult to make progress, but then when I saw Isaac's 2 brothers behind, Joseph and Mikey, then I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good, because they were the top 2 in the championship, and they're going to fight me to the death to try and block me block me for getting past Isaac. So a difficult situation. I tried to maybe get past Isaac on the first lap, but then Adam Delmont as well was going right at me, so I opted for a bit safer, maybe collect some points, because that was always going to end in a crash if I wasn't going to do that.
We're getting a very smart way of approaching the race and being quite conservative to get some great points on the board. I have to ask, as a racer, there's always that itch or that urge, if you will, particularly when you see multiple drivers in front of you all scrapping, that you want to get involved. How do you present yourself from falling into that trap, particularly with there being so many places where cars concertina together at Fuji?
Well, I think it's just experience, to be honest. I mean, last season, at this point last season, I would have definitely absolutely gone gung-ho and just sent it. And I imagine it would have ended in a crash. I think this season, in the fact that I'm going to try and fight for the championship, I need to be a bit safer than that. Maybe consider, maybe not risking it all just for an extra position or an extra couple of points. And obviously the pros behind me weren't going to fight for the same points as me, but the issue was I wanted to get past everybody ahead, so it was a very difficult seesaw of opinion going, should I try and attack, or should I just try and take it steady and let follow the pro-ams through? So yeah, very difficult.
Still, imagine that difficulty. You've netted yourself some major points today, and it does place you now firmly inside the top 10 of the Pro-Am Championship going into our first mid-season break. Obviously, you've missed a round, so therefore you're slightly behind on position compared to your rivals, but many rounds to come, and next up is Montreal in 2 weeks' time. How are you feeling at this stage?
Well, I mean, if I can pull off some pace like I did in the GT3 the other week, then I'm feeling pretty confident. Try and convert that into touring car pace. Yeah, it should be a good race. I usually quite enjoy Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, and obviously the curbs in the Elantra will be good, because I think the Elantra can take the curbs probably the best out of all the touring cars. So I think it'll be quite competitive there. My main focus now really is for tomorrow's race in the GT3 to try and wrap up that championship.
Well, indeed, you've got a Proto GT3 Championship coming as of tomorrow evening and battling for that, and then it's going to be practically 2 weeks until you go racing it once again. And we do look forward to seeing you taking the Chemical E Motorsport GT3 tomorrow night, and also the Honda Elantra to Canada 2 weeks from now. But just before we do let you go, Alex, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, obviously everybody who's watching, supporting me, commenting on the stream, really appreciate it. Obviously NXTGEN for obviously hosting this series. I mean, I say it every time, but it's just such an enjoyable Tuesday evening to go on. Everybody's so friendly in the chats, and we'll have a brilliant race. Obviously you, Paul, for doing as always, fantastic commentary. Always keeping up with the action. And Kemi Tooley Motorsports as well for giving me the opportunity to race in this league as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room this evening, and congratulations on a solid set of results on your return to the series after a brief hiatus. And well, we look forward to plenty more from yourself 2 weeks from now in Canada. But of course, we wish you all the best for your final preparations for the Proto GT3 Championship season finale tomorrow. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thanks, you too, Paul.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interview with Alex Meredith, the Kemi Motorsport driver, who today really emphasising time and time again playing for points. And it does intrigue me with the fact that he had multiple opportunities today to push for extra points or potentially get stuck into battles, but opting to play it safe and saying that when we go race in 2 weeks now at Montreal, he'll start to turn the wick up somewhat. And I think it's a very smart approach from the British driver in the fact and he's really noticing the fact he's around down at the moment, having missed Road America. There is a drop score at the end of the season, which has to be accounted for, but he's using that mindset already of, I have my drop score, it's a full 0, so therefore I've got to push forward now and gain every critical point. And today, making sure those points counted and a number of results going his way. Two top 5s in the Pro class, including 1 podium, and also a P6 in class. Those are not small points being gained, and whilst it means that he's only just inside the top 10 in the Pro class, it lays a foundation which, if he can carry this momentum forward into the next couple of rounds, we could see him very quickly build momentum and suddenly be inside the top 5 and focusing on that championship title campaign for the Pro class. He's definitely one to watch. I think right now many another Pro driver will be looking at the league tables after today and thinking that Kemi Motorsport Elantra is a threat. We just don't realise it yet. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. And you've heard from our 3 selected drivers, starting with the Pro-Am classes, Russell Fowler, our driver of the day by Higgins Automotive, and also our Pro-Am overall winner, the 4th one of which in our 3rd racer today, but also an absolutely phenomenal day from our driver there, and well, plenty more to look forward to from him as he picked up 2 wins today across races 1 and 3, but indeed we've got a Pro-Am Championship coming alive, not just with Russell Fowler, but also some of his peers. But on top of that, we also got to hear our second interview of Jamie Dory, the defending champion overall for NXTGEN Racing Pink, and the Pro Class driver there, putting together a fantastic double podium, including a win in race 2, only for it to be a difficult race number 3, but still, sometimes that's the way it goes, but that's not the be-all and end-all of his championship, and he knows that just as much as we do. And then lastly, the interview we just heard from none other than Alex Meredith from Kemi Motorsport, and the Pro-Am class driver there, making it a very consistent and solid set of performances today and prioritising points over risk. Well, thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room, and congratulations to them all for their performances today, and I hope they all, much like the rest of our drivers, enjoy the mid-season break. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the NXTGEN racing community, perhaps you're sat there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid for the ongoing season of the NXTCC or our other series that are ongoing, including the GT3 Championship and also the season finale of the Proto GT3 Championship tomorrow night. Well, to find out about all that and more, we recommend you first go to our website, and that may be found at nextgenracing.co.uk. And as our website appears on screen here, it is the home and clean and fair sim racing for all, and we've been hosting leagues at NXTGEN Racing for the best part of 17 years almost now. And whilst we've gone from PC and console to focusing on iRacing and PC, the one thing at heart still remains the same, which is we're here to provide leagues and events for everybody of all skill levels. Whether you're a rookie all the way through to an esports professional, there's something here for you, and you're welcome within the NXTGEN racing community as we look to continue to go from strength to strength over the course of 2023 and onwards with upcoming leagues, including future editions in the NXTCC and also our GT3 Championship. But if you don't want to necessarily go to our website, you can, of course, also take a look at our Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing. And there you can find out all about our ongoing and upcoming series, but you'll also find out a little bit more about the staff and administrators that make up NextGen Racing and what we do not just on the virtual circuit, but also on the real circuit, with a good number of members of our staff being at trackside marshals and even some of them being at real-world race drivers. We'd also like to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsors of this series, particularly our title sponsor, Higgins Automotive. And well, if you're in the market for a car that is as good as new, then Higgins Automotive is the place to go to. Specialists in car restoration, the team's meticulous efforts have seen many a car go from salvage to sale faster than you can do at 0 to 60. And if you'd like to know more about what they do and see what stock they have available, be sure to head to Higgins Automotive on Facebook, link available there on screen, and check them out today. And we did hear, of course, from manager of Higgins Automotive, John Higgins Sr. earlier today, who presented the award for Driver of the Day. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now turn our attentions to next time. We've got a 2-week break coming up, albeit it is a 1-week gap before we return on Tuesday, the 12th of September 2023, to kick off the second part of the season at the Circuit Charles Villeneuve. It's going to be a trip to the North American continent, and in particular to the Canadian Hybrid Street Circuit, with its closing walls, its numerous chicanes, and traction zones and extended straights. And the key theme will be all about return to full throttle as soon as possible and keeping it out of the barriers. But with the infamous Wall of Champions beckoning, will it claim a couple of our drivers, or will we see some drivers start to push themselves towards champion status? We'll find out all that and more when we return 2 weeks from now. But until then, we've been NXTGEN Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.